Chapter 1457. Su Xiaobin and Bao Sanli nodded as they listened to Jing Xiaolu's words. Indeed, if Lu Huamei wanted to use this matter as a means to attack Lu Jinan, it would be a good excuse and point of attack. However, this matter had nothing to do with the company's affairs. Lu Huamei was too lazy to care about it. If this recording could not be used as auxiliary evidence, perhaps Lu Huamei would not have the patience to listen to it. After I showed the fingerprint identification bag, Lu Huamei confirmed that the contract had been stolen. At this time, her eyes were filled with indignation. Jing Xiaolu said, it was the kind of indignation that lamented because this changed contract had completely angered her. Once this contract was carried out, it would do no good to the company. She was very clear that a cooperative relationship based on this unequal contract could not be continued. That was why she was so angry. Lu Huamei would only care if it affected the company's overall interests. The comments on the internet were not wrong. Even if she went against Lu Jinan, it was because of the company's affairs. There were no personal grudges. Su Xiaobin and Bao Sanli couldn't help but be moved. Lu Huamei was really such a person. She was indeed worthy of respect. If the Jiangyan group had such a person at the helm, why would they worry about not being able to reach a higher level? However, perhaps everyone present knew that it was extremely difficult for Lu Huamei to control the core power of the Jiangyan group. This is also why I was so sure that Lu Huamei could help us. Jing Xiaolu let out a long sigh of relief. Until now, my hanging heart has finally been put down. If it weren't for your explanation, I would still be worried. Bao Sanli smiled rudely. Xiaolu is still the best. Jing Xiaolu smiled bitterly. She was not very excited about Bao Sanli's praise. As long as Brother Yang comes back and knows about this, it will be fine as long as he doesn't scold us. Yeah, it's fine for you. Brother Yang is protective of women, but I can't. Bao Sanli also smiled bitterly. Brother Yang? This was the first time Su Xiaobin heard this name. It seemed that even Bao Sanli was very respectful. Could it be the Yang Ming that Lu Jifei mentioned? It was very possible to think about it. However, this was an internal matter of other people's companies. Su Xiaobin was not a member of other people's companies yet, so it was inappropriate to ask more. President Su, you are familiar with this place. Find a hotel. Let's stay here now. Although it is not very far from Songjiang, it is not close either. It is troublesome to go back and forth. Jing Xiaolu asked Su Xiaobin in the back seat while driving. Vice President Jing, I reckon that I'm about to reach the end of my career as an office manager. Su Xiaobin smiled and mocked himself. You can call me Little Su or Xiaobin, but don't call me President Su. All right. Ah, he is coming. Wang Xiaoyan was stunned, and then quickly began to put on her clothes. As old Buffon's master's wife, how could Wang Xiaoyan not get up quickly? Otherwise, it would be very shameful to be caught sleeping in bed. Does my father know that he is coming? Uncle Wang only knew that someone from the Buffon family was coming, but he didn't know that it was old Buffon. Yang Ming said, I didn't tell him at the time because I was afraid of scaring him. Oh, then you don't have to tell him. Give him a surprise. Who asked him to trick us? Wang Xiaoyan disagreed and said slyly. He. Yang Ming couldn't help but laugh after listening to Wang Xiaoyan's words. Then, I guess we really have to give him a surprise. After Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan quickly washed up, they went out of the room and went downstairs. Wang Songshan, Fang Tian, and Wang Ruoshui had already woken up. At this moment, the three of them were sitting on the chairs in the dining room and talking about something. However, Wang Ruoshui's face was red. It was obvious at a glance that something must have happened last night. It was not difficult to imagine what happened. Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan looked at each other and saw the answer in each other's eyes. They couldn't help but smile. Wang Xiaoyan's face couldn't help but blush. In fact, she and Wang Ruoshui were just the pot calling the kettle black. What happened last night was only known to her and Yang Ming. Yang Ming, Yan Yan, have you woken up? Wang Songshan watched Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan walk into the dining room. His address for Yang Ming had changed from little friend Yang Ming to calling him by his name. Uncle Wang, good morning. Yang Ming smiled and greeted Wang Songshan, then turned to Fang Tian and Wang Ruoshui. Master's wife, good morning. Both of you look good. You must have slept well last night, right? Hee. Fang Tian smiled wretchedly. How could he not understand the meaning of Yang Ming's words? However, he was also a little proud. Don't look at my age, my masculinity is still as strong as before. So much so that Wang Ruoshui scolded anxiously. How can he still be so fierce at such an old age? Don't look at Wang Ruoshui's age. It was the first time for a virgin. While she was depressed, she was also secretly happy. It seems that Fang Tian's body is still in good condition. Wang Ruoshui's face became redder after being teased by Yang Ming. She glared at Yang Ming fiercely, then coughed and said, Yang Ming, Yan, sit down and eat breakfast. Chapter 1458. Breakfast. Let's put it aside first. Yang Ming said, now, there is an important thing to say. In a while, the Buffon family will be our guest. They have already arrived in Elo town. I estimate that they will arrive in another hour. Yang Ming said. What? The Buffon family is here. Wang Songshan was shocked when he heard Yang Ming's words. He stood up. Yang Ming, why didn't you say so earlier? We didn't prepare for such an important matter in advance. You know, they are the most distinguished guests. Wang Songshan did not doubt the authenticity of Yang Ming's words. If someone else told Wang Songshan that the Buffon family was coming to the butterfly family as guests, Wang Songshan would definitely not believe it. The reason was very simple. Although the butterfly family was also a powerful existence in the upper class of Europe, they were inferior to the Buffon family. Even if they were to be guests, it would be their own people visiting the Buffon family. How could they let the Buffon family come personally? However, all of this came from Yang Ming's mouth. Wang Songshan naturally believed it completely. This was because Yang Ming found the Buffon family to resolve the family crisis this time. Since Yang Ming could command the Buffon family, what was impossible for the Buffon family to visit the butterfly family? Uncle Wang, it's not that I didn't say so earlier, but I received a call from them early this morning. Yang Ming smiled bitterly. This old guy didn't even say anything when he left yesterday. He actually woke me and Yan up early in the morning. Damn it. Yang Ming. How can you be so rude? Wang Songshan was shocked when he heard Yang Ming's words. How could he casually talk about the Buffon family? If it was heard by others, then the trouble would be huge. Although you are familiar with them, and perhaps you use some benefits to persuade them to help us resolve the crisis, but you shouldn't look down on them. If you offend them, then the losses will outweigh the gains. If they fall out with us, the consequences are not something we can bear. Falling out? Yang Ming smiled indifferently. As long as he has that thought, he can turn hostile at any time. I don't care. Everyone present looked at Yang Ming in astonishment. They didn't understand why a person who was originally very sensible would suddenly become so arrogant. When facing the Lancer family, Yang Ming was not so arrogant, but when facing the Buffon family, which was more than one level higher, he spoke arrogantly. However, there was one person who knew that Yang Ming was telling the truth. This person was Wang Xiaoyan. Not only did Yang Ming dare to say these words to scold old Buffon, but even if he scolded him in front of old Buffon could only face him with an apologetic smile. As for Fang Tian, he knew that Yang Ming had accepted this Buffon family member as his disciple, so he wasn't too worried. Yeah, this person is really annoying. I was sleeping soundly, but he woke me up. When I see him later, I must scold him. Wang Xiaoyan naturally cooperated with Yang Ming. The coquettish expression on her face seemed to show that she didn't put the Buffon family in her eyes at all. Are these two children still asleep? Wang Ruoshui looked at Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan, dumbfounded. She didn't understand why these two people spoke like this. Probably. Wang Songshan listened to Wang Ruoshui's analysis and thought so. This was the only reason that could explain what was happening in front of him. He waved his hand helplessly. Let the two of them wake up here. Let's hurry up and prepare. Don't neglect them. Fortunately, the house has been redecorated for Yan Yan and Yang Ming yesterday. Otherwise, we would really be caught off guard. Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan looked at each other and smiled knowingly. Sometimes, the truth was always not believed. Both of them were just telling the truth, but everyone didn't believe it. Why are they so active? Yang Ming smiled bitterly. It seems that the old guy, old Buffon, wants to come and learn, right? But they don't know. Wang Xiaoyan also smiled bitterly. Forget it. Let's eat. Don't worry about them. Okay, let's eat. Yang Ming looked at the untouched breakfast on the table. It was really convenient for him. Wang Songshan and the others probably wanted to wait for him and Wang Xiaoyan to come down so that they could have breakfast together. Obviously, they had waited for them, but the news he brought them made these old guys unable to eat. Fang Tian had no concept of the upper-class families in Europe. Moreover, no matter how powerful old Buffon was in Europe, it had nothing to do with Fang Tian. However, since Wang Ruoshui was busy, how could Fang Tian not help? Therefore, Fang Tian followed behind Wang Ruoshui and busied himself like a follower. With yesterday's foreshadowing, it was not difficult to decorate the interior of the butterfly castle. They just had to remove those obviously festive things and replace them with welcoming things. When they were done, Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan were also full. The two of them didn't think that Wang Songshan and the others could come back and continue to eat after they were done. Therefore, they didn't even think about leaving food for them. They just picked out what they liked to eat and left a pile of leftovers. Who? Wang Songshan was very tired after busying himself for a long time. When he returned to the dining room again, he happened to see Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan had just finished eating and drinking leisurely. He couldn't help but be angry and amused. You two, aren't you really in a hurry? What's the hurry? Yang Ming said disapprovingly, it's not like we haven't seen the people of the Buffon family. Is there a need to be so grand? That's right. When Yang Ming and I went to the Buffon family as guests, they didn't decorate so grandly. Why should we decorate like this? Wang Xiaoyan also retorted disapprovingly. This. Wang Songshan was stunned. He didn't expect that his daughter had also been to the Buffon family. No wonder she was so fearless. It seemed that she was very familiar with the people of the Buffon family, just like Yang Ming. The people who came this time might also be acquaintances of the two of them. However, he still said, how can it be the same? What kind of existence is the Buffon family? Moreover, although the people you know may have a high status in the Buffon family, it's impossible for the entire family to warmly welcome them just because they are personal friends, right? Wang Songshan took it for granted that the people that Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan knew could not be the patriarch of the Buffon family. It was even impossible for them to be people like the great elders. Because the two of them were too young, in Wang Songshan's opinion, the people that Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan were most likely to be in contact with the descendants of the Buffon family. The second or third successor, or even the first successor, was unlikely. He would never have thought that the person that Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan knew was actually the current patriarch of the Buffon family, old Buffon. However, old Buffon did not decorate the house like this, nor did he let the whole family warmly welcome Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan. It was also because old Buffon guessed that Yang Ming might not like this. According to the information he looked up, those masters did not like noise, and they did not like that kind of extravagance. They were more low-key, so old Buffon chose to receive Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan in a low-key manner. Forget it. Since it has been arranged like this, then so be it. Yang Ming shrugged and did not explain. At this time, it did not matter if he explained or not. Anyway, old Buffon would come soon, and everything would naturally be understood. Wang Songshan was about to say something, but at this time, a disciple ran in hurriedly. Previously, these disciples had been instructed by Wang Songshan to report immediately once there were guests. What's the matter? Are there guests coming? Wang Songshan quickly turned his head to look at the disciple who ran in and asked. Reporting to the family master, the disciple at the foot of the mountain sent a message up. The guests of the Buffon family are about to arrive at the butterfly castle. The disciple who ran in quickly replied. Let's go, I will personally welcome them. Wang Songshan nodded quickly, and then said to Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan, you too, don't you want to come out together? Then let's go together. Yang Ming smiled bitterly and shrugged. This old Buffon's face is really big. I have to personally welcome them. Wang Xiaoyan probably also thought of Yang Ming's idea, and couldn't help but smile. She got up and followed Wang Songshan out of the restaurant with Yang Ming. On the other side, Wang Ruoshui and Fang Tian had also received the news. Butler Mu and some of the disciples who had the final say in the butterfly family all followed behind Wang Songshan. The group of people arrived at the entrance of the butterfly castle. At this time, they happened to see a luxury off-road vehicle of unknown brand slowly driving over. Chapter 1459. Junior sister, did I see wrongly? The ones standing at the door to welcome us are master and master's wife, right? Old Buffon climbed the rugged mountain road and was about to reach the butterfly castle when he suddenly saw the people welcoming him outside the butterfly castle. It's master and master's wife. Mrs. Buffon took a closer look and immediately confirmed, senior brother, how can we trouble master and master's wife to welcome us personally? Yeah, isn't this killing two of our disciples? Old Buffon was shocked when he confirmed that the people in front were Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan. He quickly yelled at the driver in front, stop the car quickly. The driver didn't know why the family master suddenly asked him to stop the car like crazy, but he didn't dare to neglect. He quickly stopped the car, turned around with some doubts, and asked, family master, the butterfly castle is in front. Why did we stop suddenly? Why are you asking so much? Drive your car properly. Old Buffon was anxious at the moment, and the driver kept asking questions. He was angry and scolded him. The driver was startled and immediately lowered his head. That's right, how could he guess what the patriarch was doing? He quickly shut up and didn't dare to say another word. Old Buffon quickly opened the door and pulled Mrs. Buffon out of the car. Junior sister, master and master's wife are standing. How can we dare to sit in the car? Isn't that treason and disrespect to master? Yeah, fortunately, we found out early, otherwise. Mrs. Buffon nodded in agreement. She now understood why old Buffon respected Yang Ming, a master who was much younger than them, so much. It was because this master was indeed a strange person. The martial arts that he taught her and old Buffon were simply magical. After practicing, they became much younger and were full of vitality. Youth was hard to buy with money. How could old Buffon and Mrs. Buffon, who were already in their twilight years, not respect Yang Ming from the bottom of their hearts? Wang Songshan was standing in the front row of the group, ready to warmly welcome the Buffon family to the butterfly castle. However, he did not expect that the Buffon family's car would stop on the mountain road a few hundred meters away from the butterfly castle before reaching the castle. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that the Buffon family was suddenly dissatisfied with the butterfly family? Otherwise, why would they suddenly stop the car before reaching the entrance? What happened to the Buffon family? Wang Songshan asked curiously. In fact, his question was equivalent to asking in vain. Whether it was Wang Ruoshui, Fang Tian, or Butler Mu, none of them knew why the Buffon family stopped halfway. Even Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan didn't know why old Buffon's car stopped halfway. What does this mean? Could it be that their car broke down? Wang Xiaoyan's words were shocking. The car broke down? Wang Songshan, Wang Ruoshui, Fang Tian, and Butler Mu all had strange expressions. The Buffon family's cars were all specially made. How could they break down so easily? Furthermore, wasn't this too sudden? Why wasn't there any warning signs? Coincidentally, it broke down in front of the Butterfly Castle's entrance? But these people really couldn't think of any other reason. It was impossible to say that the Buffon family didn't want to be guests. How could they go back on their words at the entrance? The only possibility was that the car broke down as Wang Xiaoyan said. Although this reason was nonsense, it was also the most likely. Wang Songshan was guessing what was going on when he saw the Buffon family's off-road vehicle's door open not far away. Two people, a man and a woman, got out of the car. After getting out of the car, they quickly ran in the direction of the Butterfly Castle. Could it be that the car really broke down? Wang Songshan suddenly had the urge to laugh and cry. If the car didn't break down, why would the people in the car get out of the car and run over? This. Wang Xiaoyan really guessed it right? Thinking of this, Wang Songshan didn't dare to neglect. Although he didn't know if the two people who got out of the car were the real deal, Wang Songshan didn't dare to neglect them since they were from the Butterfly family. He quickly walked over to the man and woman. Hello, distinguished guests from the Buffon family. I am the family master of the Butterfly family, Wang Songshan. When Wang Songshan was about to walk to old Buffon and Mrs. Buffon, he said, "Excuse me, is there a problem with your car? Do you need help?" Car problem? Old Buffon and Mrs. Buffon were both stunned. They looked back at their car strangely, then glanced at the confused Wang Songshan and knew that he had misunderstood. The car is not broken. Old Buffon waved his hand. Although he knew about the Butterfly family and had heard of Wang Songshan, he didn't know the relationship between Wang Songshan and Yang Ming. He came here this time for Yang Ming. As for Wang Songshan, it wasn't important. Old Buffon didn't want to waste time with him. He had already seen Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan standing in a group of people. He thought that he should quickly run to Yang Ming and ask for forgiveness. How could he have the mood to explain so much to Wang Songshan? So he just said perfunctorily, "Hello, Family Master Wang. I am old Buffon, the patriarch of the Buffon family. This is my wife. Okay, let's talk later. I have something very important to do now. I'm sorry, I have to leave first." Old Buffon, the patriarch of the Buffon family? And Mrs. Buffon? Wang Songshan's eyes widened as soon as these words came out. No wonder Wang Songshan felt that these two people were a little familiar when they got closer. Although Wang Songshan didn't participate in some of the regular gatherings of the upper class, it didn't mean that he didn't know the family masters of these upper-class families. Especially people like old Buffon and Mrs. Buffon who had a high exposure rate. Wang Songshan didn't think in this direction before. In his opinion, the people who came to see Yang Ming, even if they were from the Buffon family, would not be people with high status. How would those people know Yang Ming? So, he never thought that the people in front of him were actually the patriarch of the Buffon family and his wife. Wang Songshan suddenly realized after old Buffon introduced himself. He compared the image of old Buffon in his impression with the person in front of him and confirmed that it was not wrong. This scared him a lot. The patriarch of the Buffon family actually came to the Butterfly family as a guest? What a shocking piece of news. I'm afraid that once this news is out, the status of the Butterfly family will be pushed to an unprecedented height. The Buffon family was already the top existence in the upper-class society. However, the patriarch, old Buffon, rarely visited any family in a high-profile manner because it was always others who visited old Buffon. How could old Buffon visit others personally? Old Buffon's appearance in the Butterfly family was equivalent to giving Wang Songshan a huge face. This made Wang Songshan surprised and happy. However, he became even more suspicious. The person Yang Ming knows is actually the patriarch of the Buffon family? However, before Wang Songshan could say anything, old Buffon had already turned around and left. He didn't say a word to him at all. Even so, Wang Songshan didn't dare to say a single word. On the contrary, old Buffon had already given Wang Songshan a lot of face by explaining a few words to him. If it were someone else, old Buffon would have no time to explain these things if he had something important to do. However, old Buffon had just arrived at the butterfly family. What important thing did he have to do? Not only was Wang Songshan puzzled, but even Wang Ruoshui, Fang Tian, and Butler Mu, who were next to Wang Songshan, were also puzzled. They had just followed behind Wang Songshan, so they heard the conversation between Wang Songshan and old Buffon clearly. They turned their heads and looked in the direction of old Buffon, but they saw a scene that made everyone present extremely surprised. They saw old Buffon pulling his wife and running quickly to the front of Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan. He said breathlessly, "Master, mistress." Chapter 1460. Among the people present, except for Fang Tian, no one could imagine that old Buffon would abandon the butterfly family's family master, Wang Songshan, at this moment and run directly to Yang Ming. At this moment, he did not have the demeanor that the Buffon family's patriarch should have. Looking at his hurried appearance, he was like a child who was eager to admit his mistake, or a child who was eager to find trouble. If old Buffon's image did not coincide with the image in Wang Songshan's heart at this moment, Wang Songshan would even think that the person in front of him was not the Buffon family's patriarch, old Buffon. This was because old Buffon's actions and demeanor were far from the legendary patriarchs of the top families in the upper-class society. Especially the words that old Buffon said after that shocked everyone present. "Master, master's wife." Old Buffon said breathlessly, "We deserve to die for letting the two of you welcome us here, but we sat in the car. We didn't know before, so please don't blame us." 3 black lines suddenly appeared on Yang Ming's head. Wang Xiaoyan, who was beside him, also felt a little dumbfounded. "So, this old guy stopped the car halfway up the mountain and ran up because I personally welcomed them?" Our group of people were inexplicably guessing why he stopped the car and even thought that his car was broken. "We didn't expect this to be the reason." "Your car is not broken?" Wang Xiaoyan reached out and gently touched her smooth forehead. She felt a little dizzy. "Aren't you wasting time?" "That. Master's wife, you and Master are standing here. How can we sit here?" Old Buffon quickly explained. Looking at Master's wife's expression, she didn't seem very happy. "Did I park the wrong car? Master? Master's wife?" Except for Fang Tian, Wang Songshan, Wang Ruoshui, and Butler Mu were completely dumbfounded. The Buffon family's patriarch is actually Yang Ming's disciple? And he actually called Miss Master's wife. It seems that he also knows Miss Master. Isn't this world too crazy? Since when did the butterfly family inexplicably have such a powerful background? The current patriarch of such a large aristocratic family was actually the disciple of the eldest Miss and young Master. Wang Songshan's heart was moved. Previously, he felt that Yang Ming was awesome. He felt that it was a big gain for his daughter to marry him, but he didn't expect it to be so big. In the future, the reputation of the butterfly family might reach an unprecedented height. Previously, the reason why Wang Songshan desperately wanted to develop the butterfly family into the #1 family in the assassin world was because although the butterfly family also had a certain prestige in the upper class, it was only because of the butterfly family's uniqueness that they were not well accepted by other families. Everyone maintained a sense of mystery and awe towards them. Often, they would stay away from them after a few words. Therefore, the butterfly family had never been able to truly integrate into the upper-class society. If Wang Songshan wanted the family to develop better, he could only work hard on the path of an assassin. There was no other way. This was because the other families had a respectful attitude towards you, but they didn't want to interact with you. If you wanted to find someone to do business with, they would ignore you. However, with the support of old Buffon and old Buffon's Buffon family, the butterfly family would be successful in the upper class in the future. They could soar and improve by more than one level. Thinking of this, Wang Songshan was excited. He wanted to hold old Buffon's hand now and have a good chat. He hoped that old Buffon would give face to Yang Ming and help the butterfly family more in the future. Then, the butterfly family would benefit endlessly. One must know that old Buffon's family was involved in a variety of industries. If the butterfly family could get a share of any industry, they could earn unimaginable wealth. Even Fang Tian was very shocked. He knew that Yang Ming had accepted a person from the Buffon family as a disciple, but he didn't know that this disciple was the current patriarch of the Buffon family. Although Fang Tian wasn't very interested in the Buffon family because he was in China and didn't have much interaction with Europe, he knew that this old Buffon was very important to the butterfly family when he saw his old friend's expression at this moment. It was no wonder when he thought about it. The Buffon family could directly and easily solve the firearms issue that was regarded as the biggest problem by everyone. Such a family was naturally very powerful. Especially when he saw the other party's age, he actually called Yang Ming, this little thing, master. This made Fang Tian very unhappy. Damn, I'm the old man. Why are you acting like an old man when you're just a little kid? Moreover, I'm your master. Even if he's your disciple, he's also my grand disciple. You can't just leave me alone, right? Thinking of this, Fang Tian suddenly coughed twice. Yang Ming was slightly stunned. He knew what Fang Tian, this old guy, was thinking. After all, this wretched master had been with him for so long. Yang Ming still understood his thoughts very well. Old Buffon, let me introduce you. This is my master, who is also your grandmaster. Yang Ming pointed at Fang Tian and introduced him to old Buffon. Ah! Old Buffon was shocked and immediately became overjoyed. Yang Ming was already so powerful. Then, wouldn't Yang Ming's master be even more awesome? Could he be a legendary hermit? Could he fly and walk on walls? Grandmaster, please accept a bow from your grand disciple. Old Buffon looked at the inconspicuous Fang Tian, but he didn't have the slightest contempt. Generally, the more inconspicuous a person was, the more skills they had. Therefore, old Buffon didn't hesitate to bow down. Mrs. Buffon, who was at the side, also followed old Buffon to bow to Fang Tian in fear and trepidation. Fang Tian was just casually angry. He thought that this Yang Ming accepted a disciple and didn't come to bow to him. However, he didn't expect old Buffon to bow to him without hesitation. Fang Tian was suddenly shocked and said somewhat awkwardly, "Okay, quickly get up, thank you, Grandmaster." Old Buffon was overjoyed when he heard Fang Tian speak because it seemed that Fang Tian had recognized them as his grand disciples. Previously, old Buffon was afraid that Fang Tian wouldn't recognize them. Then, he wouldn't know what to do. However, he didn't expect this grandmaster to be so easy to talk to. This is my master's wife. Yang Ming continued to introduce the people present to old Buffon as he pointed to Wang Ruoshui and said, "Disciple greets the grandmaster's wife." Old Buffon was overjoyed. It seems that I came at the right time today. Master has introduced all the people in the sect to me. This is a kind of recognition for me. Perhaps, he will teach me more exquisite martial arts. Although Mrs. Buffon wasn't very proficient in Chinese culture, she followed whatever old Buffon did. She was quite good at it. This is your master's wife's father. Yang Ming finally introduced Wang Songshan. After thinking about it, he didn't know how to address him. Ah! Old Buffon was shocked. It turns out that the master of the butterfly family is actually the master's wife's father? And, thinking about it, the master's wife is called Wang Xiaoyan, and the master of the butterfly family is called Wang Songshan. So that's why. I have neglected it before. Thinking of this, the cold sweat on old Buffon's forehead immediately came down. When he came over before, he was indifferent to Wang Songshan and didn't take him seriously. However, he didn't expect him to have such a powerful identity. Old Buffon didn't dare to neglect. He quickly continued to kneel down with his wife and said to Wang Songshan in fear and trepidation, "Disciple greets." Old Buffon was also dumbfounded. How should I address the master's wife's father? Even though he was proficient in Chinese culture, he didn't know what words to use to describe this unusual relationship. Therefore, he was immediately stuck there. How about calling him Grandmaster too? Yang Ming hesitated and said, "Although Yan Yan is your master's wife, most of your wife's martial arts came from the butterfly family. Therefore, calling him Grandmaster is not in vain." "How can it be in vain?" Old Buffon quickly said after listening, "Disciple greets Grandmaster Wang." Wang Songshan was also dumbfounded. My identity suddenly rose a lot and became Grandmaster? Isn't this too exaggerated? Previously, I was still thinking about how to build a relationship with the Buffon family. Now, it's great. I don't even have to think about it. I'm here directly. Seeing that Wang Songshan's expression was uncertain and he didn't speak, old Buffon was shocked. I had neglected him before. Did I offend him because of this? He was shocked and quickly apologized. "Grandmaster Wang, disciple has offended you before. I didn't know you were Grandmaster, so I hope Grandmaster can forgive me." Chapter 1461. Wang Songshan really wanted to beat himself up. Am I dreaming? Otherwise, how could the high and mighty Buffon family patriarch, old Buffon, who is usually difficult to meet, kneel in front of me and apologize to me in fear and trepidation? Looking at Wang Songshan's incredulous look, Yang Ming shrugged and thought, "I didn't mean to be pretentious. Although I am called Brother B, that is really not my intention. How would I know that old Buffon would make such a big fuss? Kneeling and kowtowing as soon as I arrived? It's not that I want to be pretentious, but there are really too many people cooperating with me to be pretentious, It's okay. Patriarch Buffon, you are really too polite. Please get up quickly. It doesn't look right to be kneeling at the gate." After a while, Wang Songshan woke up. He was the head of the family after all. He had a natural courage and reached out to help old Buffon up. In the blink of an eye, a lot of people younger than old Buffon had become old Buffon's elders. However, old Buffon did not feel the slightest discomfort. Instead, he was very adapted to the situation in front of him and maintained a respectful smile for everyone. It turns out that the butterfly family has such a strong foundation. I originally thought that they were just an ordinary assassin family that was only good at using guns and assassination. I didn't expect that they also knew martial arts. I actually didn't notice it for so long. If I had known this earlier, I would have gone to the butterfly family's door and not waited until I was so old to enter the sect. This huge change from a distinguished guest in the family to a disciple in the family made the butterfly family's preparations for a warm welcome go to waste. The welcoming things from before were also useless. Old Buffon was as easygoing as his own people in the family. He was amiable to everyone. There was no need for a big welcome ceremony at all. This made Wang Songshan very depressed. Didn't I prepare for nothing? This Yang Ming didn't remind me in advance and made me work for nothing. If I had known this earlier, why did I prepare in such a hurry? There was no need at all. In the end, I didn't even eat breakfast. In fact, Yang Ming had already reminded him before, but Wang Songshan didn't believe it. He didn't even take it to heart, which led to the current situation. Previously, Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan's disapproving attitude made Wang Songshan and Wang Ruoshui think that they were still sleeping. Who could they blame? It could only mean that sometimes, when you speak the truth, others won't believe you. Old Buffon was easygoing and didn't treat himself as an outsider at all. The high-end guest room that was originally prepared was useless because old Buffon wanted to stay next to Yang Ming and Fang Tian, and the prepared guest room was far away from here. At that time, Wang Songshan thought that since old Buffon was a distinguished guest, he naturally had to live in a quiet environment where he would not be disturbed. Anyway, the butterfly castle was very big, so Wang Songshan ordered people to clean up a room far away from everyone. It was very quiet. He didn't expect old Buffon and Yang Ming to have such a relationship, but old Buffon didn't care if the room was specially decorated. Even his master, the Grandmaster, could live here, so why couldn't he? If he continued to be picky, wouldn't he be asking for a beating? Therefore, old Buffon happily stayed. This made the people of the butterfly family, who were originally nervous and afraid of neglecting old Buffon's family, sigh in relief. It turns out that Patriarch Buffon is so approachable. However, Wang Songzhan and others understood very well that all this originated from Yang Ming. If it weren't for his relationship with Yang Ming, would old Buffon treat the butterfly family like this? Why had they never heard that old Buffon was such an easygoing person before this? Jiangyan City, Jiangyan Group's conference room. The board meeting was in progress. Lu Jiangyan, the old master of the Lu family, sat in the main seat, slowly sipping his tea and looking at his grandchildren in the conference room. Those who could attend the board meeting were basically the direct descendants of the Lu family. This couldn't be changed. Old Master Lu was shrewd all his life, but it was inevitable that there would be a day when the company's shares would be divided by his sons, grandchildren, and granddaughters. The huge Jiangyan group would be torn apart in an instant. Looking at the few descendants who fought to the death for their own interests every day, Lu Jiangyan's heart was filled with a trace of desolation. Could it be that this was a big family? Could it be that these people couldn't unite as one? Don't they know that if the group is really divided, it won't be good for them? However, the temptation of power had blinded these people's minds. Everyone didn't want to be under others. The final result was the division of the group. The consequence of the division was that the Jiangyan group instantly became several medium-sized groups. At first, the impact might be smaller, but after a long time, without the support of the huge parent company behind them, how could these medium-sized groups resist the blow brought by those competitors in the industry? Without the Jiangyan group's banner, who would be afraid of you? Who would give you face? Don't look at how these industries were smooth sailing under the Jiangyan group. Once they were divided, they would inevitably decline. But, can these people really not see it? Isn't it good to nominate a leader who can lead the family and the group to glory? Isn't it good for everyone to get a huge bonus every year? If Lu Huamei can sit in the position of the company's chairman of the board of directors, the Jiangyan group will definitely continue to develop brilliantly even if I retire. Everyone's bonus will not be less than now, but it will be much more than after the division of the business. Lu Jiangyan shook his head. His third son, Lu Hua, and Lu Hua's two sons were not easy to deal with. If Lu Huamei was the chairman, they would probably be the first to jump out to oppose it. Lu Jiangyan listened to everyone report their own data. The seemingly harmonious group was actually full of danger. In fact, Lu Jiangyan's thoughts were not on these data at all. If there were no major problems, the group had now entered the stage of stable profitability. These data did not have much meaning whether he listened to it or not. "Grandpa, I have a talent that I want to recommend to you," Lu Jianan suddenly said after reporting his work. "Oh?" Lu Jiangyan recovered from his contemplation and looked at his grandson. He was clear in his heart. I'm afraid he wants to place his own confidant in the group again. However, as a grandfather, what can I say? Forget it, I'll listen to him. What kind of person is worthy of Jianan's praise? Tell me about it. Grandpa, you know about the previous cooperation project with the Songjiang Mingyang Security Company. Lu Jianan was delighted when he saw that his grandfather allowed him to continue. He quickly said, "The negotiator we sent for this project is Lu Jifei, who is also a relative of our Lu family." Lu Jiangyan snorted and motioned for Lu Jianan to continue. Lu Jifei showed amazing talent during the negotiation. He negotiated this contract beautifully and won a lot of benefits for our company. As Lu Jianan spoke, he took out a copy of the contract and handed it to Lu Jiangyan. "Grandpa, please take a look. This contract is quite beneficial to our company. Therefore, I think that such a talent should be promoted. Isn't the group lacking a deputy finance director? I think he can do it." Lu Jianan didn't know that Su Xiaobin had already taken Bao Sanli and the others to find Lu Huamei. In his opinion, it was fine to delay Su Xiaobin's matter first. Here, he had to finalize Lu Jifei's position first. At that time, he would push all the blame to Su Xiaobin and let him be the scapegoat. Even if the contract could not be carried out and the Mingyang Security Company fell out, he could use this opportunity to fire Su Xiaobin and end it all. Chapter 1462. Therefore, Lu Zhinan had a good plan, but he neglected the fact that Su Xiaobin actually found Lu Huamei. The reason why he was so conceited before was that he thought that Su Xiaobin couldn't bypass him to find someone else. In the group, there were only 3 people who could solve this problem. They were himself as the vice president, his father as the president, and his grandfather as the chairman. Of course, Lu Zhinan didn't think that Su Xiaobin could reach his grandfather and talk to him directly. This was impossible in his opinion. This was because even if it was him, it was not easy to meet his grandfather. Except for the board meeting, he had to convey his opinions to his father, and his father would then convey it to his grandfather. Therefore, in the group, the only one who could talk to his grandfather directly without any obstacles was his father, Lu Hua, the president of the group. Of course, there was a special case, and that was Lu Huamei. This cousin of his. Lu Zhinan gritted his teeth at the mention of this name. There was no other reason except that this cousin was too outstanding and too doted on. Everyone was a direct descendant of the Lu family, and Lu Huamei was a woman, but she could talk to his grandfather directly at any time. Why was it so difficult for him, the vice president of the company, to see his grandfather? Based on what? Based on what? Lu Zhinan couldn't accept this reality, so he would do everything to create trouble for his cousin. Aren't you capable? Aren't you doted on? I believe that as long as all the trouble comes to you, even your grandfather can't protect you. After all, the power in the company's board of directors had been dispersed. It was no longer a one-man show. As long as someone took the opportunity to create trouble, even his grandfather couldn't suppress it for no reason. Let's not talk about this first. Lu Zhinan didn't care about Su Xiaobin's matter at all. In his opinion, Su Xiaobin couldn't cause any trouble at all. Since his grandfather and Lu Hua were not on good terms, and since Lu Hua was his father, even if Lu Hua were to look for his father because of this matter, his father would definitely suppress this matter. No matter how much he fought for power with Lu Zhiqiao, that was an internal matter of the third prince's bloodline. Whether he or Lu Zhiqiao ascended the throne, they were both his father's sons. Therefore, Lu Hua would not harm his own son. Therefore, Lu Zhinan boldly put forward his own request at the board meeting. Moreover, he twisted the truth and said that Lu Jifei, a despicable guy, was a talent. Lu Jifei? Lu Jiangyan silently repeated this name. He still had an impression of this child of the Lu family. He was a nephew of one of his uncles. After he became rich, he established the Lu family's Children's Entrepreneurship Fund. All the children of the Lu family could get a sum of entrepreneurial funds after they grew up, and this Lu Jifei was one of them. In his impression, he ran a small trading company. He just used the Jiangyan Group's prestige to do some small business. When it came to talent, he really didn't find him to be a talent. Even if Lu Jifei was not a direct descendant of the Lu family but a collateral descendant, Lu Jiangyan still gave him the necessary attention after he took away the entrepreneurship fund. It could be said that Lu Jifei's every move was still in the old man's sight. After all, Lu Jiangyan also wanted to see if there were any outstanding children in the Lu family's collateral descendant. If there were, he didn't mind helping them. However, Lu Jiangyan didn't have the leisure to help those with mediocre qualifications. Being able to use the Lu family's Jiangyan Group's name to do some small business with the entrepreneurship fund was already worthy of these children of the Lu family. Therefore, when Lu Zhinan said that Lu Jifei was a talent, although Lu Jiangyan didn't show anything, he was a little disappointed in his grandson. The group belonged to the entire Lu family. The quality of the group and the quality of the senior executives were the key to the success or failure of the group's future development. Lu Jiangyan understood Lu Zhinan's approach of placing his own forces in the group. In fact, a large business family was the epitome of imperial power in the past. The open and covert struggles within the family were no weaker than the palace struggles. It was normal for brothers to scheme against each other and fight to the death. When Lu Jiangyan was young, he was very puzzled when he saw some of his old friends' children fighting for power. At that time, he naively thought that as long as he educated his children well, such things would definitely not happen in the future. However, when he really came to this day, he suddenly realized that all of this was not under his control. First, it was his 3 sons, then his 2 grandsons and granddaughter. It was also because of this that Lu Jiangyan didn't comment on the matter of Lu Zhenan placing his trusted aides in important positions in the company. The only thing he could do now was to maintain the superficial harmony between these few descendants. As long as they could put on an act in front of him and didn't go too far, Lu Jiangyan would let them be. However, in his heart, he still hoped that his little granddaughter would be the one to take the top position. There was no other reason. It was just that although Lu Huamei was also fighting, she had a clear conscience. Everything Lu Huamei did was from the perspective of the company's interests. Even if it was for herself, it was under the premise of the company's interests. She had never fought with others for her own personal affairs. Only such a person who was dedicated to the public interest could Lu Jiangyan feel assured to hand the company over to her. This could also ensure the company's long-term prosperity. As for Lu Zhenan, everything he did was for himself. As for the company's interests, perhaps it was not worth mentioning in his eyes. This could be seen from the issue of arranging this Lu Jifei. Although the deputy director of the company's finance department was only a deputy position, it was still an important position. Letting such a mediocre person hold this position? Isn't this a joke? Isn't he taking the company's interests too lightly? Lu Jiangyan was well aware of Lu Zhenan's motives. It was because the finance department had always been managed by his granddaughter, Lu Huamei, which made Lu Zhenan very unhappy. He wanted to take this opportunity to plant a nail beside Lu Huamei. This contract was signed under the leadership of Lu Jifei. Lu Jiangyan looked at the copy of the contract in his hand. He frowned slightly as he looked at it. His fingers tapped on the table rhythmically as he asked slowly. Yes, our company has had many similar collaborations. However, this time, it is undoubtedly the most successful and most beneficial to our company. Lu Zhenan said proudly, it can be seen that Lu Jifei is a rare talent. Our company must entrust this kind of talent with heavy responsibilities in order to play his role. The most successful and most beneficial? Lu Jiangyan finished reading the contract in his hand and threw it aside. His expression did not reveal his thoughts at the moment. So, this Lu Jifei is really a talent? This, grandson thinks so. Lu Zhenan was a little carried away, but he also felt a strange atmosphere. Why do I feel like there is more to grandfather's words? You think so? Lu Jiangyan suddenly slammed the table and snorted coldly. If this Lu Jifei is a genius, then the Mingyang security company that signed the contract is a big fool. Ah. Lu Zhenan was stunned on the spot. He did not understand what grandfather's words meant. However, many of the Lu family's disciples and those who were not part of Lu Zhenan's faction laughed secretly. Although they did not see what was written on the contract, they thought that old master Lu Jiangyan must have seen that something was wrong, so he immediately went crazy. This time, there was a good show to watch. This Lu Zhenan seemed to have shot himself in the foot. Chapter 1463. Is this a collaboration? Where the hell did you get this? Did you print it yourself? Lu Jiangyan was old and experienced. He felt that there was a problem when he saw the contract. Although Lu Jiangyan was a businessman, he was an honest businessman. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to develop the Jiangyan group to such a large scale in just a few decades. There was obviously a problem with the signing of this contract. Although Lu Jiangyan didn't know under what circumstances this contract was signed, if it was signed under normal circumstances, this Mingyang security company was simply the number one fool in the world. The investment was 10 times more than the Jiangyan group, but the shares were 10 times less than the Jiangyan Group. Wasn't there something wrong with their brain? Lu Jiangyan didn't believe that there was nothing fishy. In Lu Jiangyan's opinion, could it be that Lu Zhenan casually fabricated a contract to claim credit in order to transfer his confidant to the finance department? Thinking of this, anger surged in his heart. What do these people think the group is? They don't put the interests of the group in their eyes at all. This was where Lu Zhenan miscalculated. Although Lu Zhenan thought that he was very smart, he was still too inexperienced. He thought that if he took out such a contract, the old man Lu Jiangyan would only be happy after seeing it. He wouldn't have any other thoughts at all. After all, who didn't want more benefits for their company? How could he have known that the contract was so unbalanced to a strange extent? The old man mistakenly thought that he fabricated it himself. However, this contract was real. Although it was signed by Lu Jifei using extreme means, it was still real, so Lu Zhenan ignored the old man's thoughts. In his opinion, this contract was a real contract. What was there to be afraid of? Grandpa, this contract is real. There is no trace of falsification. Lu Zhenan was shocked and knew that his grandfather had misunderstood. He quickly explained, if Grandpa doesn't believe it, I can bring the original copy and let Grandpa look at it personally. There is an original copy? Lu Jiangyan was really disappointed in his grandson, Lu Zhenan, because this matter was simply unreasonable. Even if he emphasized that it was real, Lu Jiangyan wouldn't believe it. Any cooperation between companies was built on the basis of mutual benefit. Otherwise, how could it be called cooperation? This Mingyang Security Company is not a fool. Why would they sign a contract that only fools would sign? So in this unreasonable situation, how could Lu Jiangyan believe Lu Zhenan when he kept emphasizing that the contract was real? Grandfather, I can prove that eldest cousin brother is telling the truth. Just when Lu Zhenan didn't know what to say, Lu Huamei spoke up. She was the only one who was favored among the grandchildren. Oh. Lu Jiangyan was stunned when he heard Lu Huamei's words. He never thought that his favorite granddaughter would support Lu Zhenan at this moment. One had to know that these two had always been at odds with each other. However, Lu Huamei's strength was that she was devoted to the company. So Lu Huamei supported Lu Zhenan at this time. Could it be that the contract was real? At this moment, Lu Zhenan opened his mouth so wide that an egg could be stuffed into it. Lu Zhenan never thought that Lu Huamei would actually speak up for him at this moment. Why was that? Didn't she know that everything he did was directed at her? Why did she have to support him instead? Although I don't know if Lu Jifei is a genius, I know that this contract was indeed signed with the Songjiang Mingyang Security Company, Lu Huamei said. However, it was signed under a very special situation. Signed under a very special situation? Huamei, what do you mean by this? Lu Jiangyan finally knew why his precious granddaughter suddenly seemed to support Lu Zhenan. It turned out that she had discovered the abnormality and was preparing to bring it up at the board meeting. It is said that there is a kind of incense that can make people lose their minds. Lu Huamei said slowly. Little sister. What are you talking about? Lu Zhenan's pupils contracted violently when Lu Huamei said the word incense. Then, he suddenly interrupted Lu Huamei, this is the board meeting. Why are you talking about those irrelevant things? Lu Zhenan finally understood at this moment. Why would this little sister who had always been at odds with him suddenly support him? It turned out that there was a more severe method waiting for him. And he was almost fooled. Listening to Lu Huamei's meaning, she knew the situation. Did Su Xiaobin actually find her? Thinking of this, Lu Zhenan suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He cursed in his heart. Su Xiaobin, this bastard, actually caused trouble for me. I should have fired him directly back then to prevent him from messing around again. Irrelevant things? I'm talking about the process of how Lu Jifei signed the contract. Lu Huamei glanced at the exasperated Lu Zhenan and said calmly. What does signing the contract have to do with incense? Lu Zhenan said, the time of the board meeting is very precious. Don't talk about those useless things. You just have to prove that this contract is real. Lu Jianan was really anxious and scared. He was afraid that the matter would be exposed. If his grandfather really knew the truth, he would probably be scolded. He might not even be able to keep his position as the vice president. Jianan, you shut up and listen to Huamei. Lu Jiangyan snorted coldly, waved his hand, and glared at Lu Jianan impolitely. Even if Lu Jianan was unwilling in his heart, he didn't dare to have any objections. He could only sit there with a dark face and curse Su Xiaoban's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. This kind of incense. Lu Huamei narrated the whole process of what Su Xiaoban had described to the board meeting without leaving out a single word. She had an excellent memory and a strong ability to organize her words, so Su Xiaoban's narration might not be very attractive. However, the whole process was full of suspense after Lu Huamei's narration, making people have a desire to continue exploring. Incense? Although the people present were skeptical of Lu Huamei's words, they had never heard of using incense as a means to sign a contract. So, they fell into silence for a while and didn't know what to say. Little sister, your story isn't funny at all. Lu Jianan saw everyone's reaction and was immediately delighted. As long as these people don't believe it, then it's easy. Do you think incense is incense just because you say so? Do you have evidence? So, Lu Jianan became fearless again. Although it sounds a little suspenseful and twisted, isn't this a little too unrealistic? As soon as Lu Jianan opened his mouth, those who had the same doubts nodded their heads. Indeed, although Lu Huamei's narration was vivid, the story sounded a little surreal. After all, this was a method that no one had seen before. It was hard to believe. Even the old man Lu Jiangyan fell into deep thought at this moment. His intuition told him that Lu Huamei wouldn't lie, but it was obviously difficult to convince the crowd if he believed her just based on her words. So, he said, Huamei, do you have any evidence? Yes. Lu Huamei nodded, I have a recording here that can prove that incense really exists, but it's a little vulgar. Grandpa, you see, since you have evidence, then show it in front of everyone. Lu Jiangyan ordered without hesitation. As for whether it was vulgar or not, Lu Jiangyan didn't even think about it. As long as there is evidence, who cares if it's vulgar or not? Lu Huamei nodded and clicked on the laptop in front of her with the mouse. Then, she turned the volume of the laptop to the maximum. Think about it. You've become my lover. How can I treat you badly? A wretched voice came from the computer speaker. Lu Jianan looked at Lu Huamei's laptop in shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This is impossible. I clearly deleted this recording with my own hands. How can it still appear in Lu Huamei's hands? That was impossible. Su Xiaoban didn't make a backup at that time. Then, how did Lu Huamei get this recording? Could it be that Su Xiaoban had been guarding against me before? Thinking of this, Lu Jianan's heart was filled with hatred. This Su Xiaoban is really a bastard. He actually kept a backup plan. The recording wasn't long, and it finished playing soon. Everyone in the board of directors was a little stunned. It was the old man from the Lu family who spoke, Huamei, who is the person in this recording. Where did it come from? Chapter 1464. The man in this recording is the so-called genius, Lu Jifei. Lu Huamei said scornfully, this is the so-called genius that Big Brother is talking about? He is indeed a genius. Not only did he use incense to make the Mingyang Security Company's people sign a contract, but he also got his subordinate's girlfriend into bed. This woman is the girlfriend of Su Xiaoban, the manager of our group's Songjiang office. You're talking nonsense. Lu Jianan was so angry that his face turned green. He didn't expect that his meticulous plan to let Lu Jifei take over would be ruined by his good sister in the end. Lu Jianan knew that he certainly couldn't be weak at this time. As long as he was weak, it was equivalent to admitting that he was deceiving his grandfather. This was something that his grandfather would never tolerate, A load of nonsense? Lu Huamei raised her eyebrows noncommittally. This recording was sent to me by Su Xiaobin himself. So what? Even if the person in this recording is really Lu Jifei, it only shows that his private life is chaotic. What does this have to do with personal ability? No one is perfect. It is normal for capable people to be a little arrogant. Lu Jifei said, moreover, the man and woman in this recording are obviously willing. Look at how shameless that woman is. How can you believe Su Xiaobin's one-sided words for this kind of thing? He was cuckolded, so naturally, he was unhappy. It is normal for him to say some slanderous words about Lu Jifei. Jinan, is this Lu Jifei really a capable person? Lu Jiangyan sighed. Now that things were clear, his grandson was still denying it. Even if this incident had nothing to do with Lu Jinan and was caused by Lu Jifei, Lu Jinan was still so protective of him. He wanted to put him in an important position in the group and said that he was a capable person. I don't know about his private life, and I don't need to know about it. We are a large group. What we value is an individual's work ability, not his private life after work. This is something that even the law protects. Is it necessary for us to delve into it? Lu Jinan said with conviction, Grandpa, I only know that he was the one who negotiated this contract, and it is very beneficial to the company. That's why I feel that he is a talent and strongly recommend him to take on a more important position. This is also for the sake of the company. If that's the case, then I might as well tell you that this contract was also negotiated using the same method. Lu Huamei stared at Lu Jinan coldly. This kind of person actually made his own selfish desires sound so righteous. He clearly wanted to plant a trusted aide in the company, but now he was thinking for the company. This big cousin brother. Little sister, everything is about evidence. I said before that we can't listen to Su Xiaobin's one-sided words. His girlfriend cheated on him, so it's natural for him to hold a grudge and slander others. It's reasonable. Lu Jinan was not afraid of anything in his heart. Although this matter was exposed, in the end, this was Su Xiaobin's one-sided statement. Where was the evidence? The evidence had long been cleaned up. Lu Luyo had already wiped away all the evidence at the scene of the signing of the contract. This was an easy thing for a black-hearted lawyer. That was why Lu Jinan was so fearless. No matter what you say, I just need to say, where's the evidence, and see what you can do. Evidence? Of course, I have evidence. Lu Huamei smiled coldly and looked at her big cousin brother with some pity. He really won't cry until he sees the coffin. Since I dared to challenge him at the board meeting, I naturally have a trump card to win. If it was really a fabricated matter, even if Lu Huamei could use it to attack Lu Jinan, she was too lazy to do it. Lu Jinan's face changed slightly, but then he thought, if there was evidence, Su Xiaobin wouldn't have come to my door so many times to request to change the contract. As long as he threw out the evidence forcefully, he wouldn't be afraid that I wouldn't comply. Therefore, Lu Jinan felt that the so-called evidence was probably as untenable as this recording. At most, it would only cause others to speculate and doubt. Really? Then I'm all ears. Maybe I was really blinded by this Lu Jifei. Lu Jinan's words were said lightly and cleverly, but he left himself a way out and threw away his responsibilities completely. If Lu Huamei really had the so-called key evidence in her hands, then Lu Jinan could completely say that he didn't know what Lu Jifei did at all and was blinded by him. After hearing Lu Jinan's words, the people present secretly scolded him for being shameless and thick-skinned. He avoided the responsibility so easily. If such an irresponsible person wasn't the grandson of the old man Lu Jiangyan, he probably wouldn't be able to sit in the position of vice president in his lifetime. Many elites present sighed secretly. It's really 10 years of cold nights. It's not as good as having a good grandfather. Even Lu Huamei couldn't help but curl her lips in disdain. This Lu Jinan is really shameless to a certain level. On the other hand, Lu Jiangyan still had a calm expression. No matter how angry he was in his heart, he couldn't show it. If he exposed Lu Jifei's shortcomings in public, unless he wanted to abolish his grandson's position as vice president, it was absolutely impossible to expose him mercilessly. That would be equivalent to completely ruining his reputation. He could scold him, but he couldn't lose his prestige in front of everyone unless it was absolutely necessary. He sighed. Is this the future successor of my Jiangyan group? Can he bring the entire Jiangyan group to its end? This is an appraisal report from an authoritative organization. I believe that with everyone's intelligence and wisdom, it won't be difficult to understand what it means, Lu Huamei said. I have already made a few copies of this appraisal report. I will pass them to everyone now. Everyone, please exchange them with each other. Lu Huamei raised her hand as she spoke. The secretary in charge of the meeting walked over and helped Lu Huamei distribute the copies of the appraisal report. Lu Zhenan's face was ashen. He pretended to be indifferent as he took a copy of the appraisal report and read it. Apart from the Lu family's children, the people present were all elites in the business world. Otherwise, they wouldn't be qualified to attend the meeting. Although many non-board members didn't have the right to speak, they had the right to attend. This was also a measure proposed by the Lu family to show the fairness of the board. It was approved by many middle-level elites in the company, making them feel that it was an extremely honorable thing to be qualified to attend the meeting. This proposal was proposed by Lu Huamei. In order to motivate the employees, the family took out a small amount of mobile shares as bonus rewards to these middle-level elites. This also greatly motivated these people to a large extent. However, Lu Hua and Lu Zhenan were initially resolutely opposed to Lu Huamei's measure. After all, the board meeting was an internal matter of the family. Why should outsiders listen in? What if some confidential information was revealed? However, this measure was quickly implemented under Lu Jiangyan's insistence. Lu Zhenan's face became more and more gloomy as he read the contents of the report. He never dreamed that the people of the Mingyang Security Company would be so creative. They didn't play by the rules and actually made a big fuss about the fingerprints on the contract. He believed that even the meticulous Lu Luyo probably didn't think of this. This was indeed an oversight. The people present were not stupid. There was no reason for them not to understand something that even Lu Zhenan could understand. Moreover, Lu Huamei had already described Lu Jifei's criminal methods in detail. Therefore, it was not difficult to see the problem that the appraisal report pointed to at this time. Could it be that there really is a hidden story in this matter? Lu Zhenan quickly spoke first just as the old man Lu Jiangyan was about to speak. He had to continue paving the way for himself. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would fall into the hands of his little sister this time. Now that I've read this report, it can be determined that Lu Jifei is very suspicious. I am a person who speaks my mind and will not be partial to anyone. Although I am very optimistic about Lu Jifei, he has done something wrong, so he must be punished. Lu Zhenan said shamelessly, however, this whole thing is very likely to be a trap set by Su Xiaobin in order to retaliate against Lu Jifei. Although this appraisal report seems to be authoritative, everyone also understands how advanced the current counterfeiting technology has become. Even the emperor's jade seal and imperial edict from hundreds of years ago could be forged. Can't this faulty contract paper be faulty? You know, although this fingerprint seems to be difficult to erase, I know that there is a laser method that can erase the traces left by some fingerprints under a microscope. So, this shouldn't be difficult, right? Chapter 1465. Lu Zhenan's words seemed to be selfless and impartial, but in fact, he was excusing Lu Jifei. He meant that even if you have this evidence, it doesn't prove anything. The current counterfeiting technology is so advanced. Isn't it easy to counterfeit? Moreover, your previous recording also proved that there was a big irreconcilable contradiction between Lu Jifei and Su Xiaobin. So, the whole thing became that Su Xiaobin hated Lu Jifei. I believe that any man would have similar thoughts if it were Lu Jifei. In other words, everything Su Xiaobin did was to retaliate against Lu Jifei. Then, is this so-called evidence still credible? Everyone present sighed in their hearts. When it came to shamelessness, Lu Huamei really couldn't compare to Lu Jianan. Lu Huamei had made things difficult for Lu Jianan several times during the board meeting, but Lu Jianan had always casually shirked the responsibility away from him. It was the same this time. Lu Jianan said that a firm report with conclusive evidence was forged. However, there was really such a possibility. This was Lu Jianan's cunning. In this way, even if everyone was suspicious in their hearts, they couldn't do anything to Lu Jianan. However, did Lu Jianan really avert danger every time? It seemed so on the surface. However, from Lu Jiangyan's point of view, every time Lu Jianan averted danger, it would greatly decrease his score in his mind. It was just that Lu Jiangyan hadn't really made up his mind to abolish all the power in his grandson's hands. He wouldn't say anything. Once he said something, it meant that the matter had reached an irreversible point. Although Lu Jiangyan seemed to be a democrat on the surface and was still very accepting of the collective opinions of the family members, this was not the case. Lu Jiangyan was the kind of totalitarian in his bones. This was the characteristic of most entrepreneurs who had experienced the early stages of entrepreneurship and walked to glory. If they really wanted to do something, no matter what others said, they wouldn't change it. Just like Lu Huamei entering the Jiangyan group and taking on an important position, wasn't it also because of the old man's strong intervention that she was able to take up the position? According to Big Brother, this Su Xiaobin really has the motive and possibility of counterfeiting. Lu Huamei didn't show much anger after hearing it. She just smiled indifferently, tacitly agreeing with Lu Jianan's words. Yeah, that's true. Lu Jianan was slightly stunned. He didn't understand why Lu Huamei suddenly gave up on attacking him. Could it be that she also knew that this move wouldn't do anything to him? However, Lu Jianan didn't know that Lu Huamei had already guessed that he would say this. She had even mentioned it to Su Xiaobin, Jing Xiaolu, and the others in advance. Unfortunately, Jing Xiaolu already had a countermeasure and told Lu Huamei about it. That was why Lu Huamei was so calm. She didn't even care about the so-called fraud that Lu Jianan mentioned. Then, Big Brother, do you have the motive and possibility of fraud? Me? Lu Jianan was confused by Lu Huamei's question. He was baffled. Why would I lie? What motives and possibilities did I have? Little sister, are you kidding me? Alright, since Big Brother has no possibility of falsification, then unfortunately, Su Xiaobin also has no possibility of falsification. Lu Huamei smiled slightly and looked at Lu Jianan as if he was a prey that had fallen into a hunter's trap. What do you mean by this? Lu Jianan vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was at that moment. Looking at Lu Huamei, who was suddenly full of confidence for some reason, Lu Jianan felt guilty. It was as if the other party had stepped on his tail. Since Su Xiaobin's fingerprints are not on the contract in the hands of the Mingyang Security Company, then his fingerprints are also not on the contract in your hands. It doesn't even have the fingerprints of the other party's general manager, Bao Sanli. Lu Huamei looked into Lu Jianan's eyes. Her words pierced his soul. I don't think you're that bored, Big Brother. You wouldn't use some advanced laser technology to erase the fingerprints on the contract in your hand, right? This. Lu Jianan's eyes showed a horrified expression. His chest heaved up and down as if he had received a huge stimulus. He stared at Lu Huamei. This is impossible, impossible. You can verify it. Speaking up to this point, even his own confidence was somewhat lacking. Lu Jianan knew that since Lu Huamei dared to raise the issue in front of so many people, it meant that she had the confidence to win. Therefore, Lu Jianan immediately withered on the spot. I know, it must be that bastard Lu Jifei who lied to me. He lied to me. I trusted him so much in vain. Lu Huamei glanced disdainfully at her elder brother, who kept defending and denying what he had done. She was too lazy to expose him. If that's the case, there's nothing to dispute about this matter. I suggest that our group should send someone to renegotiate the contract with the Mingyang Security Company and give them the necessary compensation. Yes. You must send someone again. Lu Jianan's chest heaved up and down. His eyes were full of hatred. However, he didn't hate Lu Jifei or himself, but Lu Huamei. If it wasn't for Lu Huamei, how could I be so embarrassed? Lu Zhanan never reflected on his own mistakes. Instead, he threw all the responsibilities onto others. This time, our company has already let down the Mingyang Security Company. Therefore, we must send someone with a position in the group to make the Mingyang Security Company feel valued. Since this matter was handled by little sister, I suggest that little sister will be fully responsible for the affairs of the newly established company in Songjiang in the future. Lu Zhanan finished speaking his thoughts in one breath. Then, he panted heavily and looked at Lu Huamei resentfully. Stupid bitch, since you ruined my plan, then fine. You are so selfless. I will let you be responsible for this matter. Wait until you leave the core power of the Jiangyan group. See how I will deal with you. Everyone present, including the CEO Lu Hua, didn't dare to make a sound. At this moment, they all held their breaths. Lu Zhanan was obviously in a state of madness now. They didn't know what kind of decision the old man, Lu Jiangyan, would make. Lu Hua was a little annoyed with his son. He really couldn't keep his cool. Who can you hide your little tricks from? You keep pushing and denying, and you still want to trick Lu Huamei in the end. Do you really think that Lu Jiangyan is an old fool? Everyone was waiting for Lu Jiangyan to speak, but Lu Jiangyan's expression was still as usual. It was as if Lu Zhanan's words didn't affect him at all. He was still so indifferent. Lu Jiangyan had long been used to not showing his emotions on his face. He didn't show anything on the surface, but he was struggling in his heart. This grandson really disappoints me. He has been in the company for the longest time and has the highest position, but the things he does are similar to a child. Who can be fooled by this kind of nonsense? Lu Jiangyan had already made a decision in his heart. This is the last time. My dear grandson, I will give you one last chance. Let's see if you can grasp it. Lu Huamei, concurrently serving as the general manager of the newly established Songjiang branch. She will be stationed in Songjiang and will be fully responsible for handling the cooperation between the branch and the Mingyang Security Company. Old man Lu Jiangyan opened his mouth and made a decision that surprised everyone. Lu Zhanan, concurrently serving as the deputy director of the group's finance department. He will be responsible for the daily operations of the finance department and will report to Lu Huamei regularly. Chapter 1466. Wow! Everyone was in an uproar. No one had expected that the outcome of this matter would actually be like this. Previously, everyone had basically expected that Lu Zhanan would definitely be dealt with this time. Old Master Lu Jiangyan, who had always supported Lu Huamei, would definitely take advantage of the situation to promote Lu Huamei further. However, the result was that Lu Zhanan's position as the vice president was not affected at all. Instead, he was promoted and concurrently held the position of the deputy director of the finance department. Although Lu Huamei also held the position of the general manager of the Songjiang branch, she was actually demoted. Although she was still the director of the finance department, she was not in the group and was sent out. As a result, the operation of the entire finance department fell into Lu Zhanan's hands. Although Lu Zhanan was the deputy director, he was actually performing the duties of the director. He only needed to report to Lu Huamei regularly. However, wasn't this report simple? It was just a few words. It was simply too easy to hide his matter from Lu Huamei, who was far away in Songjiang. Lu Zhanan even thought that there was something wrong with his ears. He looked at his grandfather in disbelief. Is this true? Is this really true? Not only was I not punished, but I was promoted instead. And my little sister, who was supported by the old master, was actually demoted? Could it be that grandfather had already made up his mind to let me take over? That's why he ignored what I did. Even just now, anyone with a discerning eye could see that I condoned Lu Jifei to do such a thing. Grandfather only scolded me a few times at the beginning. After that, he didn't ask any more and directly promoted me. Originally, Yang Ming wanted to arrange for Lu Jifei to be the deputy director of finance, so that the finance department would have its own people. But now that Lu Jifei had caused so many troubles, it was definitely impossible to entrust him with such a heavy responsibility. But this deputy director position did not fall into the pocket of others. Yang Ming was stunned. A smug smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he looked at Lu Huamei. "You bitch, didn't you deliberately want to take me down? This is great. You got yourself into trouble. You are willing to be a good person who helps others when you see injustice. Since you are so dedicated to the good of the company, then the matter of negotiating with the Songjiang Mingyang company will be handed over to you. And you don't have to come back. Just be the general manager of the branch there for the rest of your life." "Grandpa, Lu Huamei also thought that there was something wrong with her ears. Why would Grandpa make such a muddle-headed decision? From the looks of it, Grandpa didn't seem to be a dotard. Then what was his intention for doing this? Not only did he not hold Lu Jinan accountable, but he also asked him to deal with Song Jiang's matters. To be honest, Lu Huamei did not feel conflicted about dealing with Song Jiang's matter. On the contrary, she would be very proactive in dealing with this matter. After all, if this matter was not dealt with properly, it would have a great impact on the Jiangyan Group's reputation. Lu Huamei felt more confident if she could do it herself. However, Grandpa's words made her stay in Songjiang forever. Although she still retained the position of Chief Financial Officer, anyone could see that the title of Chief Financial Officer was in name only. It was impossible to expect Lu Jinan to listen to her remote command. "You have stayed in the group for a long time. It might not be a bad thing to train at the grassroots level." Lu Jiangyan didn't give Lu Huamei a chance to explain and directly made the final decision. Lu Huamei sighed slightly in her heart, but couldn't say anything else. The board meeting ended just like that. Some people didn't understand, while others were gloating. Lu Jinan strode out of the conference room in high spirits. From today onwards, his power in this group would be unparalleled. Lu Hua was frowning at this moment. He couldn't see through the old man's intention for doing this. Why did he suddenly start to suppress Lu Huamei, who had always supported him, and entrust Lu Jinan with such an important task? What did this mean? Was the old man preparing to appoint a successor? No matter how Lu Hua looked at it, he didn't think that his eldest son had the potential to be a successor. However, the facts were right in front of him, so he had to believe it. Lu Huamei, who had always been favored, suddenly fell out of favor, and his eldest son, Lu Jinan, was actually promoted after doing so many perverse things. Was the old man really muddle-headed? Lu Hua's heart trembled when he thought of this possibility. Was there something wrong with the old man's body? Did he know that he didn't have much time left, so he started to plan for his funeral? Lu Hua suddenly felt that it was very possible when he thought of this. Otherwise, the old man's attitude wouldn't be so abnormal. However, no matter what, this was a good thing. As long as his eldest son was chosen as the successor, he would definitely not let him go. He would definitely take over the position of chairman smoothly. It was just that a part of the shares might be allocated to his eldest son, but that didn't matter. The Jiangyan Group would be controlled by the third branch in the future. In Lu Jiangyan's office, Lu Huamei looked at her grandfather stubbornly. She didn't speak, but anyone could see the grievance in her beautiful eyes. "What's wrong, my little princess? Are you angry with Grandpa?" At this moment, Lu Jiangyan no longer had the aura he had during the board meeting. He gave people the feeling that he was a completely kind old man. "Grandpa, you also know what kind of person my eldest brother is. I'm afraid that Grandpa's years of hard work will be ruined by him if the group is handed over to him." Although Lu Huamei didn't show too much anger, the resentment in her heart was quite a lot. If she didn't know that her grandfather was very sober now, she would have scolded him for being muddle-headed. "Hee, then do you think that Grandpa is muddle-headed?" Lu Jiangyan smiled slightly. His deep love for Lu Huamei was fully displayed in his eyes. "No way." Lu Huamei's cheeks reddened slightly. She was a little uncomfortable with her thoughts being exposed. "Grandpa, I also play a role in supervising my eldest brother in the company. Now that I'm in Songjiang, then, I just want to give your eldest brother a chance. Lu Jiangyan didn't hide his thoughts from Lu Huamei. This is also his only chance, the last chance. Grandpa, you mean? Lu Huamei exclaimed softly. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She understood what her grandfather wanted to do. That's right. Lu Jiangyan nodded. Without your supervision, I will put the power of the group in his hands. If he is willing to change, then there will be a place for him in the Jiangyan group in the future. If not, then he can take his shares and be a good-for-nothing young master. The dividends will be enough for him to spend for the rest of his life. Lu Huamei listened to her grandfather's explanation and sighed in relief. It seemed that her grandfather had made up his mind through this incident. However, there was no need to mention the loophole in the accounts that she had decided to mention to the board of directors because the finance department had already become Lu Zhenan's world. There was no need for her to mention it. Are you relieved now? Lu Jiangyan sighed. Huamei, I think highly of you, but you are the one who I don't want to participate in this family dispute the most. How I wish that you were still the little girl who only knew how to act spoiled in front of me a few years ago. Find a good man in the future, marry him, and give Grandpa a great-grandson. Grandpa, I won't marry. I will always be with you. Lu Huamei's face suddenly blushed like a cooked shrimp. Girls have to marry in the end, Lu Jiangyan sighed. His heart was full of contradictions. Don't blame your eldest brother. In his opinion, you are a girl who will always belong to someone else's family. That's why he doesn't want the family business to become your dowry. However, your two brothers are really useless now. If such a big group was handed over to them, I'm afraid, Lu Jiangyan didn't continue, but the meaning was obvious. Chapter 1467. However, they are my children and grandchildren after all. I still have to give them some shares, Lu Jiangyan said. No matter what, the person at the helm of this company is still you. You won't blame Grandpa for being biased, right? Why would I? Lu Huamei shook her head. Actually, it doesn't matter if it's shares or not. I'm a girl. Why would I need so much money? I just need to buy flowers. I really don't want to see such a glorious Jiangyan group go down the drain. This time, you can go to Songjiang as a vacation. It's been hard on you. You buried yourself in work and refused to rest for a moment, Lu Jiangyan said. It's best if you can bring back a little boyfriend for Grandpa. Grandpa, what are you talking about? Lu Huamei was embarrassed. In Lu Zhenan's office, Lu Zhenan looked at Lu Jifei apologetically. This was his absolute confidant. Not to mention, this Lu Jifei was really capable of flattering others. In just a few days, he went from an ordinary collateral descendant of the Lu family to Lu Zhenan's absolute confidant. Of course, although Lu Zhenan was a bit of an idiot, he couldn't deny Lu Jifei's flattering face. Brother Nan, you don't have to worry about me. Today is a happy day. Although Lu Jifei regretted that he couldn't become the chief financial officer and couldn't make things difficult for Jing Xiaolu, he looked very happy on the surface. Congratulations, Brother Nan. The finance department will be your world in the future. No one in this group can stop Brother Nan's footsteps anymore. That's true. Lu Zhenan thought that he was actually the deputy director of the finance department, and the corners of his mouth were about to fall off. However, I really have to wrong you. I really don't know what happened to the old man today. He actually let that little bitch Lu Huamei out. This is really a joyous event. Yeah, this is the biggest happy thing. In the future, without her around Brother Nan can cover the sky with one hand in the group. Lu Jifei smiled and said flatteringly. However, there is a trace of suspense in this matter. Why does the old man suddenly want to support me? After Lu Zhenan laughed, he also had some doubts. He was not a fool. How could he not notice the old man's abnormality today? Of course it's abnormal. Lu Jifei said with a smile, Brother Nan, I think from the old man's reaction now, he wants to train you as the successor of the group. Oh? What do you mean? Lu Zhenan's heart was excited. Is it true? Of course. Otherwise, he wouldn't let you be the deputy director of the finance department, and Lu Huamei not only not to mess with brother Nan, but also let herself be let out of the company. Lu Jifei said, we can already see the old man's thoughts. That is, the successor has been determined. No matter what brother Nan does, you are already the successor in the old man's eyes. Even if you overdo it, it is no longer a shortcoming. After all, it is normal for the superior to be strong. That makes sense. Lu Zhenan's expression became increasingly proud. As for Lu Huamei's apparent promotion, it's even easier to explain. Lu Jifei said, it's not good for the old man to take her position directly. After all, what she did was for the benefit of the company, not just for you, brother Nan. So, even if the old man wanted to touch her, there was no reason for it. But in order to make way for your promotion, she must be removed as an obstacle. So today, she was let out of the company. Jifei, I realized that you really have the talent to be a dog-head strategist. Lu Zhenan patted Lu Jifei's shoulder as if he was a confidant. I think that even if Lu Huamei and brother Nan didn't fight over this matter today, the old man would find another reason to let Lu Huamei out of the company and entrust you with an important task. Lu Jifei continued to analyze, and today, it just so happens that there is such a good opportunity. Maybe the old man will praise brother Nan behind his back that you are a person who can create opportunities. Jifei, I have decided. In the future, you will be my strategist and follow me. Although you don't have a specific position in the company, I will personally give you a salary of 50,000 yuan a month. If you do well, I will give you more rewards. Lu Zhenan was looking at Lu Jifei more and more pleasing to the eye now. It would be wonderful to have such a follower by his side. Thank you, brother Nan. Lu Jifei quickly agreed after hearing it. 50,000 yuan a month. He would only be a strategist, and his company would not be affected at all. It was simply free money. Moreover, there were rewards. If I get promoted in the future, don't worry. You will be the biggest contributor. At that time, the vice president position will be yours. Lu Zhenan said boldly. Then, thank you, brother Nan. How could Lu Jifei not know the benefits of following Lu Zhenan? In the future, he would be like a close official by the crown prince's side. When the crown prince ascended the throne, he would be under one and above all. Lu Huamei is still too easy for her. It's best if she can never rise again. People were always greedy. Previously, Lu Zhenan was still happy that Lu Huamei had been captured by outsiders. However, in the blink of an eye, he felt that it was better to kill Lu Huamei. Otherwise, she would always be an enemy of his. She would be a huge threat if the old man made a mistake one day and allowed her to make a comeback. Brother Nan, don't worry. I still have a backup plan. I guarantee that Lu Huamei will die. Lu Jifei had planned a backup plan to deal with Jing Xiaolu. Similarly, this plan could also be used on Lu Huamei. Lu Jifei's plan was for Jing Xiaolu and Su Xiaobin to die together. At this time, Lu Huamei would be involved, so she would be included. Oh. Lu Zhenan showed an interested expression. You have a good way to make her unable to rise again? Of course. Lu Jifei sneered and whispered in Lu Zhenan's ear, when the time comes, we will do this. I'm not afraid that Lu Huamei will not be finished. Is there any movement from the Lancer family? Yang Ming held Wang Xiaoyan leisurely and sat in the courtyard of the butterfly castle. Wang Songzhan, who was opposite him, was also eating fruits leisurely. No one would have thought that the butterfly family, who was still in crisis a few days ago, would become so relaxed. Fang Tian and Wang Ruoshui were training old Buffon and Mrs. Buffon in the courtyard. However, the two old guys didn't feel that it was hard at all. It was a great honor to be able to be taught by the founder and the founder's wife. No, I don't think Thomas will give up on good easily. After all, he is his biological grandson, said Wang Songzhan, just like how I refused to marry Yan Yan to good. Yang Ming nodded, it seems that we didn't pressure the Lancer family enough. We should ask old Buffon to give them some warning. No need. I will leave in a while and go to the Lancer family personally to take Good's head. A trace of hatred flashed across Wang Songshan's mouth when he said this name. I will definitely make Good pay the price in blood for the humiliation he brought to our butterfly family. Yang Ming smiled slightly. Looking at Wang Songshan's current appearance, he knew how much he hated Good. If he didn't know the Buffon family, the butterfly family would have fallen into a big crisis now. All of this happened because the butterfly family didn't do anything wrong. If the butterfly family took the initiative to provoke the Lancer family and became enemies with them, then they could only blame themselves for being incompetent. However, it was obvious that Good was the one who started the trouble first. He spouted nonsense and went to the Lancer family for revenge after his proposal failed. Such a person was an out-and-out villain. How could Wang Songshan let him stay? If Good didn't come to pay tribute to the anger in Wang Songshan's heart, how could he wash away the previous shame? If Wang Songshan didn't do anything, even the other families would laugh at Wang Songshan for being incompetent. With such a strong backer like the Buffon family, if he didn't take revenge on his enemy, people would think that Wang Songshan was too incompetent or even doubt whether the Buffon family's backer was real or fake. Alright, but there should be masters in the Lancer family. I suggest that Uncle Wang bring a few family disciples along to take care of each other, said Yang Ming. I naturally know this. Don't worry. Wang Songshan nodded, wait for my good news. Chapter 1468. In the Lancer family, Kevathan, who had just become the patriarch, had no expression of excitement or joy on his face. This was because the Lancer family had suffered the heaviest blow in history. Kevathan's only hope was his cousin Jetson, who had entered Central. However, he sent a distress signal using the special communication method Jetson gave him. However, there was no news after waiting for 3 days. Kevathan was a little desperate. Did his cousin abandon me, or did he not receive my message at all? Compared to Thomas and Leckroft, Slade was also very anxious. After all, Kevathan was his son. If this family matter could not be resolved satisfactorily, then Kevathan would inevitably become a patriarch who stepped down as soon as he came to power. Does God want to destroy my Lancer family? Kevathan looked at the Lancer family members who were originally high-spirited and arrogant at the family meeting. He couldn't help but tear up and cry. Does anyone have any ideas? Ideas? Leckroft snorted indifferently. Nephew Kevathan, you are now the patriarch of the family. You have the final say in everything. Why are you still asking us if we have any ideas? You. Kevathan was already filled with grief and indignation. He was immediately angered by Leckroft's words. Third uncle, what do you mean by this? Are you not a member of the Lancer family? Are you willing to watch our family go to destruction? In the beginning, it was you who vowed that you could protect Good and ensure that the family would not suffer losses. That was why we unanimously elected you as the patriarch. Leckroft said calmly. After that, you said that you wanted to give up Good. Well, you are the patriarch. We all listened to you. I also voted in favor of giving up Good. There is already a solution. What else do you want me to think about? I think it's better to directly hand over Good's head to the butterfly family. You. Why didn't Kevathan want to give up Good? However, Thomas obviously disagreed. He couldn't do anything at all. Even though Thomas had stepped down as the patriarch at this moment, the family's cronies had not disappeared with him. It could be said that half of the people in this large Lancer family were directly under Thomas's command. How could Kevathan do anything? Kevathan felt that he was really a coward as the patriarch. He had just taken office and had not yet enjoyed the thrill of it, but these things almost made him have a mental breakdown. Kevathan watched his family's industry turn into bubbles in an instant. He went to visit the family that had close business with the Lancer family before, but they did not even give Kevathan a chance to meet with him. No matter how Kevathan showed the feelings and friendship between the two families, they were not moved at all. If they offended the Buffon family, who would dare to help? Wouldn't that be inviting trouble for himself? Therefore, in this way, the Lancer family had completely become an ant on a hot pan, without any hope and support. Cousin Jetson, the only one who could bring a technological pillar to the Lancer family, was nowhere to be found. This made those in the Lancer family who originally thought that Kevithan was stronger as the patriarch begin to feel restless. Especially Leckroft, he thought that Kevithan was just painting a pie in the sky. In fact, Kevithan didn't have any strength. Cousin Jetson was just an excuse. Now that Kevithan was in power, the cousin still hadn't appeared. This made Leckroft even angrier. He firmly believed that he could be a better patriarch than Kevithan. Kevithan, since you can't protect good and can't bring any benefits to the family, then I think it's better for you to abdicate? Leckroft smiled coldly and stared at Kevithan like a poisonous snake. I think even second brother Thomas is better than you as the patriarch, right? Leckroft had missed the best opportunity to take the position. He had exposed his ambition too early, but he failed to take the position because of Kevithan. Now, it was probably impossible to take the position again. Even if Kevithan abdicated, the one to take the position could only be Thomas. He had no hope. This made Leckroft hate his nephew Kevithan to the bone. If it weren't for him being meddlesome, I'm afraid that the previous person to take the position would be me. Therefore, Leckroft also made up his mind. Since he couldn't take the position, he couldn't let Kevithan have an easy time. The best way was to let Thomas take the position again so that no one could take advantage of it. Thomas was originally the patriarch, and Kevithan just came up halfway. So be it if you step down. Who said that my cousin can't protect good? Who said that he can't bring benefits to the family? A cold and ethereal voice floated into the Lancer family's conference room. This voice seemed to come from the distant underworld, making people shudder, but it also felt close at hand. Cousin Jetson. Is it you? After Kevithan heard this voice, he didn't feel cold like others. Instead, he was suddenly overjoyed and exclaimed, Cousin Jetson, I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. Cousin Kevithan, I remember your care for me in the past. I, Jetson, am duty-bound for anything related to you. A tall figure quietly floated into the conference room. Even the people present didn't know how this person came in. It was just like the legendary leaping onto roofs and vaulting over walls. Cousin Jetson, what kind of kung fu is this? It's so powerful. Kevithan exclaimed, looking at the person in front of him in disbelief. Although the Lancer family was now in a crisis, their defense was also at its tightest. This was because the Lancer family was guarding against the Butterfly family's revenge every minute and every second. Therefore, there were more than 10 disciples guarding the Lancer family both inside and outside the family. However, such a person had silently appeared in the conference room without any report. This made all the members of the Lancer family present turn pale with fright. This only explained one possibility. When Jetson entered the conference room, he did not arouse the vigilance of any of the guards. They didn't even notice that a person had entered the family. If this person was not Jetson, but an enemy, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Fortunately, he was not. However, this caused absolute fear in Thomas and the others present. Since Jetson could come in, then the people of the Butterfly family who were good at assassination shouldn't be worse than Jetson, right? After receiving your message, I flew here day and night. However, the center is a little far from here. I'm not late, right? Cousin Kevithan? Jetson didn't look at the other members of the Lancer family, but sat in the chair opposite Kevithan. Flew here? Jetson's words, flew here, were obviously understood by everyone as coming by plane. They didn't association of other meanings. Of course you're not late. Kevithan said quickly, Cousin Jetson, I am now the current family master of the Lancer family. Our Lancer family has encountered an unprecedented big trouble. I have already told you about it in the message. Can you help me solve it? Trouble? Jetson sneered, but his words were full of contempt and disdain. You call this trouble? As soon as Jetson said this, the audience was in an uproar. Both Leckroft and Thomas secretly thought that this Jetson was too arrogant. Even if you are a member of the Center, it is impossible for you not to know the strength of the Buffon family. How can this not be trouble in your eyes? Why? You don't believe me? Jetson's gaze landed on Thomas and Leckroft, then swept across the faces of the other people in the conference room, and finally fixed on Kevithan. Of course I believe in my cousin, Kevithan said quickly. He didn't know why, but his cousin was completely different from before when he came back this time. There was an indescribable cold temperament all over his body, making people feel like they had fallen into an ice cellar. Jetson nodded in satisfaction and looked at Thomas, Leckroft, and others. What about you? Don't you believe in the strength of the Center? Chapter 1469. This, of course not. Thomas and Leckroft were shocked and quickly denied it. What a joke. Who dares to be an enemy of Central, a mysterious organization? Isn't that courting death? Whether you believe it or not has nothing to do with me. I came here completely for Cousin Kevithan's face. Otherwise, how would I know you? Jetson didn't care and said lightly. No, of course, we believe in Central's strength. I believe that after this incident, as long as Central gives us some technological inventions, it will be enough to make our Lancer family stand proudly at the peak of the IT industry. Thomas was the former family master after all, so his words were watertight. His attitude changed all of a sudden. I already know about this matter, but Central's technology is not something that any of you can touch. Don't even think about it. Jetson waved his hand and directly rejected Thomas's proposal. This. Thomas and Leckroft's faces suddenly showed a disdainful expression. Since you are here and can't provide us with technological support, why are you still pretending? You are acting like you are very powerful? Then what's the use of you coming here? Kevithan was also a little guilty at this moment. Is Cousin Jetson not going to help me? But just a moment ago, he even swore that he would support her. Thinking of this, Kevithan asked carefully, Cousin, you mean, spread the word. Let the daughter of the Butterfly family marry good, then let the Buffon family restore your arms business and give you another 50% of the profits. Jetson said faintly, if you do all this, I will spare their lives. Otherwise, I will destroy their entire family. Everyone, including Kevithan, opened their mouths wide after hearing Jetson's words at this time. They looked at Jetson as if they were looking at an alien. This guy's so-called help is this? You want to destroy their entire family? Do you have the strength? Although you are from Central, and Central is indeed mysterious, you can't be invincible, right? You know, that is the world's #1 assassin family, the Butterfly family, which is famous for assassination. They are ranked second on the assassin list. The Buffon family is the top existence in the upper-class society. They have hundreds of years of heritage. How can you destroy them just like that? What right do you have? Let's not talk about whether you are an opponent of the Butterfly family. Even if you touch the Butterfly family, it may not be a big deal. However, if you touch the Buffon family, it may cause a backlash from the royal families or rulers of some small countries in Europe, Africa, and so on. Many of those small countries are supported by the Buffon family. If you do this, a world war may break out. I've already agreed to help you. Are you not going to cooperate? Jetson also saw the doubts in everyone's hearts and sneered in his heart. Weak existences. How can you know what it means to be strong? Cousin Jetson, it's not that we don't want to cooperate, but the Butterfly family and the Buffon family are too powerful. If we anger them like this, the consequences will be unimaginable. Kevithan could only speak carefully when he saw that everyone was silent. If this was said by someone else, Jetson would have already been annoyed. However, it was Kevithan who said it, so Jetson did not make any extreme reaction. He just said lightly, what Butterfly family? What Buffon family? In my eyes, they are just like ants. They are not worth mentioning. Arrogance also requires capital. Are you helping our Lancer family by saying some illusory words like this? I think you want to harm our Lancer family, right? Leckroft couldn't bear it any longer. He had long found Kevithan unpleasing to the eye. Just a moment ago, he was plotting to get Kevithan off the stage. But now, a crazy guy appeared. His mouth was full of bullshit. He was simply an egomaniac. This made Leckroft extremely unhappy. Capital? Humph. Jetson sneered. He slowly stretched out his hand and slammed it on the conference table in front of him, making a loud bang sound. Jetson's sudden move shocked everyone in the conference room, especially Leckroft. He was already so angry that his heart was beating faster. As a result, he was shocked by this loud sound and his heart almost fell out. Slamming the table? This is your strength? Leckroft's face was red with anger. He sneered mockingly, who doesn't know how to slap the table? Does a little strength mean you have strength? I think you, gah. Leckroft's words were stuck abruptly before he finished speaking. It wasn't that someone had stopped him, but the scene in front of him made him dumbfounded. It was because the conference table in front of him was cracking at a speed visible to the naked eye. The large marble conference table suddenly turned into small pieces, smashed into pieces, and piled up on the ground. A conference table made of the strongest marble had turned into a large pile of rubble in the blink of an eye. Everyone present looked at the pile of rubble, dumbfounded. This marble table actually turned into a pile of broken stones under Jetson's palm? How is this possible? Is this still within the scope of human strength? Even if it was hit with a sledgehammer, this solid marble wouldn't become like this, right? Humph. Jetson sneered again. He pulled down the copper wall lamp beside him, allowing the sparks from the wires to pass through his body. He was not affected at all. He tore off the wires, pinched the copper wall lamp in his hand, and pressed it hard. The entire copper wall lamp turned into a copper lump. Leckroft's eyes changed from the initial disdain and contempt to horror and awe. How did this guy do it? Is he a human? Not only is he extremely strong, but it seems that the electric current can't cause any harm to him. Cousin Jetson, how did you do it? In the end, Kevithan was more familiar with Jetson. Kevithan spoke first in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Ha 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 ha. Jetson laughed arrogantly, stood up, and looked at the people of the Lancer family with contempt. How did I do it? Central's ability is far beyond the imagination of you secular people. But since you asked, I can tell you. In the eyes of ordinary people like you, in your own words, you can call me the Terminator. Wow. The Terminator. Kevithan never thought that his cousin Jetson, who was once at the end of his life, would actually become a Terminator that only appeared in movies today. What kind of terrifying existence was at the center of this place? Not to mention the Butterfly family and the Buffon family, even if there were 8 or 10 of them, I could destroy them with a snap of my fingers. Jetson said coldly and proudly, Cousin Kevithan, if it weren't for our deep friendship, I definitely wouldn't have come out this time. Do you know how much I paid to get Dr. Benjamin to agree to come out of Central this time? Strength was greater than everything. Previously, all the people of the Lancer family who were dissatisfied with Jetson now only had worship in their eyes. It was the worship of the strong. Because they all knew that with the terrifying strength that Jetson had shown, not to mention the Butterfly family and the Buffon family, even if there were 10 more of them, they would probably not be his opponent. Moreover, the most important thing was his identity. He was someone from the Central. Since a random person from the Central had such terrifying skills, then what about the other people in the Central? Going against Jetson was equivalent to going against Central. When a few people with the same strength as Jetson came out of Central, then who could compete with them? Cousin Jetson. I'm sorry. I even doubted you before. I'm very ashamed. Kevithan said sincerely. He didn't hide anything at all because his previous suspicious look must have been noticed by Jetson. If he lied again, it would be somewhat inappropriate. It doesn't matter. You and I are brothers. Don't say this. Don't worry. I will make you the most accomplished and brilliant family master in the history of the Lancer family," Jetson said bluntly. However, no one would doubt that Jetson was boasting. After seeing Jetson's strength with their own eyes, these people all understood that Jetson really had that strength. Chapter 1470. Jetson's arrival was like a shot of adrenaline to the Lancer family, who had already fallen into a crisis. It raised the depressed morale to a considerable height. The members of the Lancer family instantly became arrogant. Kevithan's position as the family master had also become indestructible after Jetson showed his extraordinary skills. Before this, Leckroft was still trying to pull Kevithan down, but now he couldn't wait for Kevithan to always be the Lancer family's family master. In the face of absolute strength, personal gains and losses had become less important. As long as the whole family rose, even if he was only an elder of the family, he would be able to show off in front of outsiders. He would not be worse than the previous Lancer family master, or even stronger. This was the benefit of having a family backer. As long as there was Jetson, a backer from Central, it would be difficult for the Lancer family not to rise. It's just an assassin family. What is it? You actually dared to provoke people from Central. There is no need for more. One Jetson is enough to destroy your entire family. At this moment, Thomas was truly willing to give up the family master's position. Before this, he even fantasized about waiting for Kevithan to reveal his incompetence and replace him and restore his position as the family master. But now it was no longer necessary because the Lancer family could only reach unprecedented glory under Kevithan's leadership. No matter who the family master was, they would not have Kevithan's advantage. Jetson's help this time was only because of his personal relationship with Kevithan, not against the Lancer family. Therefore, if they wanted to maintain a relationship with Jetson and even Central, then Kevithan must be the one to step forward. The position of the family master must belong to Kevithan. That night, Kevithan said in a high-profile manner, "The Butterfly family and the Buffon family are too much, but my Lancer family is not easy to bully. Don't think that you are so powerful. In the eyes of my Lancer family, you are actually nothing. You still want Good's life? That's a big joke. Now I will give you a means of atonement. The daughter of the Butterfly family's family master, Wang Songzhan, still has to marry Good. You will also have to personally arrange a banquet in front of the celebrities of the entire European upper-class society to apologize to my Lancer family. This matter will be forgiven. As for the Buffon family, this is a grudge between us and the Butterfly family. Why are you involved? Fine, since you want to participate, then you have to pay the price. As long as you restore the Lancer family's qualifications as an arms dealer, increase the supply, and give us 50% of the profits, we will let bygones be bygones. We will still be partners." How arrogant. This was simply unbridled arrogance. The Lancer family's tough stance made all the big families in the upper class have an inexplicable feeling. Is the Lancer family crazy? Was this still the same cowardly family that had been in dire straits a few days ago? Why did he suddenly become so strong? He actually dared to go against two great families at once, and one of them was a mysterious and terrifying assassin family. The other family was the Buffon family, one of the top families in the upper-class society. One must know that the Buffon family was not someone he could easily offend. Are they going to start a world war? The Lancer family's arrogance did not stop there. The former partners of the Lancer family had all drawn a clear line with them after the Lancer family's incident. At this time, the Lancer family was counting on them. Teams of men in black rushed out of the Lancer family and rushed to the companies and shops of the ungrateful partners. Without saying anything, they began to beat and smash. How could these families be the Lancer family's opponents? These men in black were obviously the Lancer family's trump card. They were private guards that had been secretly cultivated over the years. Each of them had extraordinary skills. They beat up the small families that had refused to interact with the Lancer family due to pressure, but they could do nothing about it. The fist was the absolute truth. Although they had previously been pressured by the Buffon family to cut off contact with the Lancer family and did not dare to help when the Lancer family asked for help, they could not afford to offend the Lancer family either. The Lancer family's madness made them complain incessantly. The Lancer family was obviously establishing their power now. Didn't you betray me? Then, you will be punished unnecessarily. Kevithan sat in the Lancer family's conference room in high spirits, commanding the family's secret forces. He issued orders one by one. He felt like a general on the battlefield and had a sense of accomplishment. This family's secret forces had not been used since they were trained. They planned to use them only when the family encountered a major crisis. This was the family's only trump card and the most powerful hidden force. If it was not necessary, the Lancer family would not expose this force at all. This was a force that Thomas's uncle, and father had not used before. However, there was no need to hide it now because the Lancer family had a stronger backer at this moment. This private guard was not worth mentioning in front of the powerful Jetson. That was why Kevithan sent this secret force. No one in the family objected. They all knew how powerful Jetson was, so why would they care about this? Kevithan was very proud when he thought that he was the first family master to use the hidden force. This is just a small lesson for you, the partners who have turned against me, so that you can be more alert in the future and recognize who you really can't afford to offend. The sudden strength of the Lancer family made everyone more and more puzzled. Not only were they strong, but they also taught the previously timid partners a lesson. Is this Lancer family on steroids? Or, they know that they are not far from being finished, so they are starting to fight back. Therefore, many people were watching the development of the situation. They did not help the Lancer family to cheer for them, nor did they help the Buffon family and the Butterfly family to beat the Lancer family when they were down. Instead, they had an indifferent attitude. However, most people were already certain in their hearts that this Lancer family was just the last madness. After the madness, they would eventually be finished. But even if it was the last madness, these people did not dare to provoke the Lancer family. Can you lower yourself to the level of a mad dog? This guy was now clearly attacking whoever he saw. Who would be willing to be the first bird to stand out for the Lancer family's crazy revenge at this time? However, there were also some people who began to intentionally or unintentionally side with the Lancer family. Even if they did not publicly express their support for the Lancer family, they secretly began to wave the flag and cheer. This was because they felt that the Lancer family was not a stupid family. It was possible for the previous family master, Thomas, to fight blindly to the end. However, the new family master, Kevithan, had only been in office for a few days. He had not even warmed up his seat yet, but he had already fought with the Buffon family and the Butterfly family. Wasn't that crazy? So, since the Lancer family dared to do this, they must have something to rely on. Maybe they had already found a bigger backer, just like how the Butterfly family relied on the Buffon family. Otherwise, unless the entire Lancer family was crazy and did not want to live anymore. However, whether they believed it or not, almost everyone knew that something big was going to happen. Because regardless of whether the Lancer family had found a big backer or not, there would eventually be a big storm in this calm upper-class society. There was no way to stop this big storm. Several big families were involved in this. All of them were above the local law. Even the small countries where they were located were established with their support. Therefore, if a war really broke out, those small countries might also participate, and it would become a chaotic war. The Butterfly family had naturally received this news. Hearing the extremely arrogant words from the Lancer family, Wang Songshan was so angry that he slapped the coffee table. However, this slap was much weaker than Jetson's. The coffee table did not shatter, but only shook slightly. Lancer family, are you out of your mind? Wang Songshan said bitterly. He looked at the person in front of him and waved his hand. You can leave first. Yes, family master. How could the Butterfly family's disciple dare to provoke Wang Songshan at this moment? After sending the message, he quickly left. Chapter 1471. It seems that I have to go to the Lancer family in person. Originally, I wanted to give them a few days of buffer time. I didn't expect that the Lancer family would take advantage of my lack of action in the past few days. Wang Songshan told Yang Ming, Old Buffon, and the others about the information from his family's intelligence department. Wait. Yang Ming waved his hand and stopped him. Isn't this a bit unusual? It's a bit strange. Old Buffon also nodded. This guy was a wise old man, master. I also think that there must be something wrong when things happen. This Lancer family must have eaten a leopard's guts to dare to challenge our two families together. Isn't he afraid of our joint revenge? Wang Songshan's angry heart suddenly calmed down after hearing what Yang Ming and Old Buffon said. He frowned and said with conviction, yes, the Lancer family only has a conflict with our butterfly family. As for the conflict with the Buffon family, it is derived from the conflict between us. As long as the conflict between us is resolved, the conflict with the Buffon family will naturally be resolved. Therefore, it is unimaginable that they would attack both families at once. Why would the Lancer family do this? Could they be bluffing? Wang Ruoshui suddenly asked. Now, the Lancer family is obviously at a disadvantage. There is no room for them to turn things around. It's fine if we take Good's life, but the Buffon family has cut off the Lancer family's only source of income. As a result, the Lancer family has no way to survive. Can they be the last crazy one? Pretending to be very confident and then let us take the initiative to stop. That's a possibility. Wang Songshan nodded after listening to Wang Ruoshui's words. Ruoshui's explanation is reasonable and more in line with the current situation. Old Buffon, do you have any news on your side? Yang Ming was also confused by the Lancer family and couldn't figure out the other party's true intentions. From the preliminary investigation, the Lancer family has not made any agreements or contacts with any other big family during this time. I'm not sure if they have really found a backer, but it seems that there is no evidence to prove this at present. Old Buffon said, we still need the Buffon family's intelligence department to continue to inquire for further information. In that case, I think the Lancer family is most likely going crazy for the last time. Either they succeed or they die trying, so we don't have to be afraid of them. Wang Songshan said, originally, I wanted to let them go, but now it seems that I should personally go and find trouble with them. That saves me the trouble of making excuses. Uncle Wang, I think it's better to wait. However, Yang Ming spoke up to stop him. I keep feeling that there is something unusual about this matter. It would be fine if Thomas was the head of the family. After all, Good is his biological grandson. It is possible that he is unwilling to hand Good over and wants to resist us to the end. It is possible that he will go crazy for the last time. But the key issue was that the current family master was Kevithan, not Thomas. He has just taken office as the family master and has not yet enjoyed any substantial benefits from the position of the family master. Isn't there something wrong with him raising the flag to resist us for Thomas's grandson? Yang Ming, although what you said makes sense, it may not be right. I think you are still too cautious. Wang Songshan waved his hand indifferently. There is nothing wrong with being careful. Yang Ming said, some things are better to be careful than careless. You don't seem like a young man's character. Wang Songshan disagreed. I have decided to leave in a while and go to the Lancer family. I will meet them personally and see what tricks they are playing for me. This. Yang Ming looked at Wang Xiaoyan beside him with some embarrassment. Yan, tell me your opinion. Of course, I think what you said makes sense, but father has made up his mind. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to change it. Wang Xiaoyan smiled bitterly. It seemed that she knew Wang Songshan's character very well. After listening to Wang Xiaoyan's words, Yang Ming knew that Wang Songshan had already made up his mind. It was useless to persuade him anymore. He sighed and said, well, in that case, Uncle Wang, you should be careful. After you go, you can withdraw if something is wrong. We will discuss it again. Don't act rashly. Of course, I know this. Wang Songshan smiled. Do you think I am a reckless man? You know, when I was young, I was a top assassin no less than your master. I have also done countless missions by myself. The dangers were far more than going to the Lancer family. If I really found out that the Lancer family had some strong support, I would have to hurry back to inform you. How could I act rashly? When Yang Ming heard Wang Songshan's words, he suddenly realized that Wang Songshan was also a super assassin. It was just that his current identity made Yang Ming subconsciously ignore this point. Now that he thought about it carefully, it was impossible for Wang Songshan to have any accidents with his assassin skills. Even if he couldn't act, there was no problem for him to retreat safely. Thinking of this, Yang Ming said, "Well, then I won't say anything more. Uncle Wang, keep in touch with the family at all times." "No problem. If I need help, I will naturally ask you," Wang Songshan said. Wang Songshan said, "This time, I will go alone. I won't bring my family's disciples. It's more convenient to go alone. If I really find something unusual, I can also guarantee that I can quickly retreat." Since things had come to this point, Yang Ming would not say anything more. However, in his heart, he always felt that something was wrong. However, his terrifying sixth sense only warned him of the danger he encountered. It was not so effective for the danger that others encountered. Yang Ming could not find a way to control it, so he could only give up helplessly. But when he thought about it, Wang Songshan's skills should not be inferior to his. Even if he couldn't beat him, it wouldn't be a big problem for him to retreat safely. Only then did he feel relieved. After dinner, Wang Songshan left the butterfly family. Fang Tian was a little worried about his old friend and planned to accompany him. However, Wang Songshan tried to stop him. The reason was that he and Wang Ruoshui had just gotten married. How could they be separated so quickly? As a result, Fang Tian and Wang Ruoshui both blushed at the same time, but they didn't refute. Although the two people didn't hold a wedding with great fanfare, both sides actually approved of each other. To them, there was no need for them to arrange such a so-called ceremonial thing. Their disciple and niece were about to get married. If the two of them held a wedding together, it would make them lose face. How could they endure marrying the younger generation together? As for Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan, it was naturally impossible to accompany them. After all, old Buffon and Mrs. Buffon were still in the family. The two of them came for Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan. It was not right for Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan to leave at this moment. As for the other family disciples, it was better not to bring them. It was simply an additional burden. If Wang Songshan could successfully take Good's head, then one more disciple would be superfluous. If Wang Songshan found that the Lancer family had other strong support, then one more disciple would easily expose himself. It would be more troublesome to find a way to protect this disciple after retreating. I always have a bad feeling, but I can't say it clearly. Looking at Wang Songshan's back, Yang Ming sighed deeply. Although I know that Uncle Wang's skills are good and nothing will happen, the Lancer family's reaction is really strange. Don't worry. Wang Xiaoyan held Yang Ming's hand comfortingly. Dad used to be the family's #1 assassin. Nothing will happen. I hope so. Otherwise, no matter whether the Lancer family has strong support or not, they will die. Yang Ming said faintly, but there was an unquestionable strength in his tone. Chapter 1472. Is there any reaction from the butterfly family? Kevithan sat in the family master's seat in the conference room and asked a family disciple who was in charge of intelligence. This conference room had become the family's temporary headquarters. Kevithan's orders to the outside world were issued from here. Slade, Thomas, Leckroft, and Jetson were also sitting in this conference room. The first three were sitting in the elder seats, while Jetson was sitting side by side with Kevithan to highlight the importance of his position. Reporting to the family master, the butterfly family did not have any special reaction. They still do their own thing and did not respond. the disciple reported. Oh. Kevithan frowned slightly after listening. How can the butterfly family not make a move? Didn't they hear my declaration? Have they received the news from us? They should have received it. Our intelligence department deliberately spread the news in Elo town. Unless the butterfly family's intelligence department is just for show or deaf, it is impossible for them not to receive any news, replied the disciple. Yes, they have no reason not to know. Are they pretending to be crazy? Or do they not believe that we have the strength? Kevithan asked with a cold snort. This. I don't know. Everything is decided by the family master. How could the disciple dare to speculate? The current family master was the most powerful family master in the history of the Lancer family. What about the Buffon family? How did they react? Kevithan snorted. He was a little unhappy. He had already shown such strength, but the other party was like a duck listening to thunder, as if nothing had happened. How could Kevithan not be angry? Reporting to the family master, the Buffon family also did not make any move. The disciple said carefully, however, it is said that the Buffon family's patriarch is not at home, so, well, I think they don't believe in my ability. Well, they probably don't believe in Cousin Jetson's ability. Should we teach them a lesson? Kevithan said and looked at Jetson. This was the only backbone of the Lancer family. As long as Jetson nodded and agreed to destroy the Butterfly family and the Buffon family, it would be fine. Otherwise, it would be useless if Cousin Jetson didn't support him. Kevithan, don't worry. Jetson said faintly, our central also has rules. We can't casually break some rules of the secular world. I've already made an exception by coming out to help you this time. However, there must be a prerequisite. That is, if there is really someone who wants to harm you, and not me taking the initiative to find trouble with them. Of course, there was one thing that Jetson didn't say, and there was no need to say this to Kevithan and others. That was, Dr. Benjamin's ambition couldn't be told to these people. If his strength was exposed too early, it would cause some unnecessary trouble. However, if the Butterfly family or the Buffon family were to be destroyed in one fell swoop when they came to provoke them, no one would say anything. Otherwise, it would not be fun if everyone resisted Central together. Although Central was not necessarily afraid of these so-called big families, they could not easily ignore the influence of these big families. Seeing that Jetson was not in a hurry, Kevithan couldn't say anything. After all, his family's only hope was Jetson. If he didn't take the initiative, others couldn't force him. With his strength, who would dare to force him? I don't think the Butterfly family will let it go. After seeing Jetson's terrifying strength, Thomas had quickly adjusted his position. He had adapted to the identity of an elder. We were too weak before, which was the main reason why the Butterfly family looked down on us and didn't move. In their opinion, we may be a strong crossbow, but we are making a final struggle. They didn't expect that we have a powerful backer like Mr. Jetson. So, I support Mr. Jetson's idea. The Butterfly family will definitely attack us when they see that we are done messing around and haven't handed over goods head to appease their anger for a long time. And what second brother Thomas said makes sense. Leckroft had now completely given up the fight for the family master's position. Competing with Kevithan, who had a powerful backer like Jetson, for the family master's position was simply overestimating himself. Therefore, there was no longer any competitive relationship between him and Thomas. Their attitudes had also changed. From the beginning, they each did their own thing, but now, they both considered the interests of the family together. However, second brother, are you really sure that the Butterfly family will take the initiative to find trouble with us? Leckroft's words were not directed at Thomas, but he was afraid that the Butterfly family would give up in the future. This would sacrifice an opportunity to teach the Butterfly family a lesson. If Jetson could take action, the Butterfly family would probably never dare to provoke the Lancer family in the future. The Buffon family would also be cautious. Knowing that the Lancer family had a powerful backer, they would not dare to make trouble with the Lancer family again. In this way, the Lancer family's status in upper-class society could leap to a new level. I don't think the butterfly family will let it go. Thomas smiled and said with certainty, previously, the butterfly family made a solemn vow. If they don't keep their word, they will definitely become a big joke. Unless the butterfly family doesn't care about their reputation, they will definitely not have the face to appear in upper-class society. At the same time, they will also be regarded as a big laughingstock. So, I think the butterfly family will definitely come to trouble us. Uncle Thomas is right. Then, let's wait for them to come. Kevithan agreed. In fact, he was not very sure whether the butterfly family could come to them, but the current key problem was that Jetson did not take the initiative to take action. There was really no other way except to wait for them to come. Since Thomas was right, Kevithan also found a way out. Otherwise, it would not look good for his family master's face. I estimate that the target of the butterfly family is very likely to be Good. So, I suggest that Mr. Jetson rest next to Good's room, in case. Thomas was naturally most worried about the safety of his grandson. He was able to give up his position to Kevithan because of his grandson. So, he actually wanted Jetson to protect his grandson, Good, by saying so many words. Second uncle, Cousin Jetson is our family's distinguished guest. It's unreasonable to let him protect a child like Good, right? Kevithan frowned slightly after listening to Thomas's words. He finally understood what Thomas meant before. It turned out that he wanted Jetson to be Good's bodyguard. It was really a good plan. It's okay, I'll just stay in Good's room. Jetson waved his hand and said lightly, since I'm here to protect your Lancer family, naturally, I won't let anyone in your family get hurt. Since Good is the first choice of the other party, I naturally have to focus on protecting him. There was one more thing that Jetson didn't say. That was, if the other party really killed Good under his nose, where would his face be? Where would Central's face be? Mr. Jetson, thank you so much. Thomas had some hope before. What kind of identity was Jetson? How could he be a bodyguard for a little brat? Therefore, Thomas just wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect Jetson to actually agree. This made Thomas a little overjoyed. His voice also became trembling, and he was extremely excited. Thomas thought, Jetson is indeed a big shot. He doesn't care so much. He's really a good person. When Kevithan saw that Cousin Jetson had agreed, he naturally wouldn't say anything against it. He went with the flow and said, then, I'll have to trouble Cousin Jetson. My little nephew is really lucky. It seems that no one can hurt him this time. Amid the praise and thanks from Kevithan and Thomas, Jetson smiled proudly. However, Thomas was right. That evening, the people of the butterfly family came, and it was a big shot. Chapter 1473. Under Kevithan's arrangement, Jetson stayed in Good's room. In fact, Jetson didn't tell these people that he didn't need sleep anymore. The so-called sleep was just a cover-up. These days, Good had been in a state of fear and trepidation. After his grandfather stepped down from the position of the family master, he had already understood how big of a disaster he had caused. If he had tolerated it back then, he might not have brought such a big disaster to the family and would not have implicated his grandfather. However, he was obsessed with marrying the butterfly family's Mississippi. He did not hesitate to use the power of his grandfather's family to deal a fatal blow to the butterfly family. However, less than a day after all of this happened, there was a twist and turn. The butterfly family actually got a huge backer, the Buffon family. This made Good so scared that his scalp was about to explode, especially when he heard that the other party's condition was his head. This made Good even more terrified. When he found out that his grandfather had lost the position of the family master because he tried to protect him, he was even more disheartened. Later, there were two opinions in the Lancer family. One was to give him to the butterfly family for glory, and the other was to protect him. Later, it was his grandfather's strong insistence that he was barely able to protect himself temporarily. This made Good feel that his life was at stake. Who could guarantee that the Lancer family would not hand him over in the end? It was not until the arrival of the strong Jetson that Good felt a sense of security. Although he did not see it with his own eyes, he did see the marble conference table in the conference room that had turned into rubble. How could this be done by a human? It was simply Superman. Good was full of confidence when he heard Jetson call himself the Terminator. Since Jetson had already said that he would protect him, then his life was definitely saved. Especially when Jetson insisted on marrying the butterfly family's miss to him as his wife, this made Good even more ecstatic. This Jetson is really a good person. He saved me from a crisis and made me feel proud all of a sudden. Good's face was full of smiles as he threw away his previous depression. I finally don't have to be on tenterhooks anymore. To be honest, Good did not have much hope that he could marry the butterfly family's miss again. As long as he could keep his life, wouldn't there be plenty of women? Just as Good heaved a sigh of relief, he received a great piece of news. That was, Jetson actually wanted to live with him in the same room. In that case, his life would be guaranteed. Previously, although Good was very confident in Jetson, who knew if there were any accidents? It was better to be safe than sorry. If the people of the butterfly family came and found him, and Jetson couldn't arrive immediately, wouldn't his life be in danger? Now, Good was completely relieved. If the people from the butterfly family could defeat Jetson and then kill him, then his death would not be in vain. The person who could defeat Jetson was no longer on the same level as Good. If such a person came to take his life, Good simply didn't want to live anymore. He would die sooner or later, so it was better to die early. It was night. Although the Lancer family couldn't be said to be brightly lit, there were street lights at several major crossings. The Lancer family's patrol guards were nervously patrolling every corner of the family. Although these people had no ability to stop the real masters, they were at least a deterrent to the intruders. Even if they were no match for the intruders, they would send a signal as soon as possible. Good had fallen asleep. This was the most peaceful night he had ever slept. With a super bodyguard like Jetson protecting him, what was there for Good to be afraid of? Jetson was not asleep at the moment. Although the Lancer family had prepared a very high-end bed for him, Jetson was lying quietly on it with his eyes closed. He seemed to be asleep, but in fact, he was very awake. He knew that his physiological structure at this moment could hardly be regarded as a person. He was still the original Jetson, but he only retained his previous memories. He didn't know how Dr. Benjamin did it, but Jetson knew that Dr. Benjamin was a normal person. Unlike them, he was a science maniac. Jetson didn't know how many people like Dr. Benjamin were in Central. These were not levels he could come into contact with. He was only responsible for Dr. Benjamin and followed Dr. Benjamin's instructions. He still knew a little about Dr. Benjamin's fanatical ideas, but Jetson didn't know the ultimate purpose of Central at all. He hadn't even seen the higher-level person in charge behind Benjamin. Or rather, he didn't even know his name. He only knew that such a person existed. There was no way to know Dr. Benjamin's position in Central. Was he a higher-up or just a subordinate? Jetson still knew nothing about these. And Dr. Benjamin wouldn't tell him. This time, Dr. Benjamin originally wanted to send him to China to help a subordinate with the code name Falcon. This person seemed to have a high position in front of Benjamin. Therefore, after Jetson went, he would only assist Falcon and listen to Falcon's orders, not occupy a dominant position. This was the first mission that Dr. Benjamin had assigned to him. This time, Dr. Benjamin considered that he had too little experience in helping the Lancer family. It would be good experience to have such an experience before going to China, so he reluctantly agreed to his request. However, Jetson didn't dare to run away because his body no longer belonged to him. If he escaped from Dr. Benjamin's control, he would probably die miserably. In other words, the previous Jetson had actually died in the hospital. The current Jetson was just another person who was reborn to serve Central. But Jetson didn't regret it because it was a gain to live one more day. Moreover, coming out this time could be considered as returning a favor he owed to cousin Kevithan. Someone. A disciple of the Lancer family opened his mouth wide. He was about to call for help, but his mouth was covered, and a cold sharp knife was pressed against his neck. Don't talk. I'll kill you if you move. This person was just an outer disciple of the Lancer family. To put it bluntly, he was just a servant. How could he have any courage? He was shocked and didn't dare to make a sound. He quickly nodded to show that he understood. Wang Songshan released the hand that covered the disciple, and then asked, "Where is Good's room?" In the front yard, on the second floor of the Red Villa, the third room from the left. The servant naturally knew where Good lived, and this afternoon, he had received a strange order from the head of the family, Kevithan. That was, from today onwards, if an outsider inquired about young Master Good's residence from their family, then they had to tell the truth and tell the other party where it was. Although these servants and disciples didn't know the family master's intentions, since the family master said it, they would just do as he said. When the disciple heard Wang Songshan's question, he didn't hide it because the family master had already agreed. What else could he hide? Wang Songshan nodded, and then asked, "I heard that the Lancer family recently had a backer. Is it true?" "It's true." The disciple hesitated and chose to tell the truth because the family master Kevithan did not hide Jetson's arrival. Instead, he told the entire family, so this was not a secret. The disciple said truthfully, "It is said that the cousin of the family master Kevithan, Jetson, has come. He is a great master and is invincible." Invincible? Wang Songshan snorted coldly in his heart. You really dare to brag. However, he finally understood why the Lancer family had suddenly become tough recently. It turned out that they had such a so-called invincible backer. Chapter 1474. After asking what he wanted, Wang Songshan did not hesitate to silence this disciple. Although he also knew that this disciple was most likely innocent, who told him to serve the wrong person and follow the Lancer family? Sometimes, it was hard to tell who was right and who was wrong in many things. Just like the two sides on the battlefield, many people knew that the other side was innocent, but they had to be enemies. Wang Songshan was afraid that this disciple would leak his information later, so it was understandable to kill him to silence him. Of course, although Wang Songshan felt that this disciple didn't seem to be lying, he still didn't dare to fully believe him. He didn't go far before he found another servant of the Lancer family. Wang Songshan asked the servant the same question again. After seeing that the servant's answer was exactly the same as the previous disciples, Wang Songshan was completely relieved. However, this servant definitely couldn't be left alive. The dagger in Wang Songshan's hand shook, and the servant fell to the ground silently. Wang Songshan temporarily hid the servant's body, and then walked silently in the direction of the room where Good lived. These two servants of the Lancer family were unlucky enough to die. They were indeed wronged. What they said was the truth, and it was the family master who ordered them to say so. So, even if Wang Songshan didn't kill them, they wouldn't yell rashly. But how would Wang Songshan know about this situation? Just as Jetson was lost in his thoughts, he suddenly heard a small, rustling sound coming from outside the window. The sound was very small, but it couldn't escape Jetson's extremely sensitive hearing. Someone is coming. Jetson's originally closed eyes suddenly opened and then closed them instantly. He originally wanted to get up and check, but he immediately gave up. Because he had already noticed that the target of the person was his room. Then, there was no need for Jetson to chase. He just had to wait here. Wang Songshan was also a very good assassin in his early years. His qinggong and hiding skills were not inferior to Fang Tian. He quickly avoided the patrolling guards in the Lancer family's courtyard. He took out a rope with an iron claw from his backpack and threw it on the roof. With a soft, click sound, the rope was stuck on the eaves. Wang Songshan pulled the rope hard. After seeing that the iron claw was firmly stuck, he jumped up and climbed up the rope. In the blink of an eye, he was outside the window of Good's room. Wang Songshan carefully destroyed the hinge lock on the window and carefully entered the room. However, as soon as he stepped into the room window, Wang Songshan felt that something was wrong. In the room, there was another person in addition to Good. Wang Songshan had never seen this person before. He didn't know why he would appear in Good's room at this moment. Wang Songshan frowned. You don't need to know who I am. Jetson said coldly. As for why you came, of course, it was a guess. I don't know who you are, but I think you are from the butterfly family, right? Good guess. Wang Songshan nodded and didn't deny it. He stared at Jetson with a glimmer of light in his eyes. This person looks really unfathomable, but I don't have such a master in my impression. Who is this person? Who are you? You shouldn't be a nobody, right? May I ask, what is the relationship between you and the Lancer family? It's best not to get involved in this mess. Mess? It's not up to you to decide whether I care about this matter. Jetson didn't put Wang Songshan in his eyes at all. As for who I am, you won't know even if I say it. What I can tell you is that I am the cousin of the current Lancer family master, Kevathan. Wang Songshan's heart trembled. This person doesn't seem to be a helper that the Lancer family spent a lot of money to invite. I'm afraid it's impossible for him to ignore this matter. It turns out that there is such a master behind the Lancer family as a backer. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave now that you're here. After Wang Songshan's previous carelessness, he didn't dare to be reckless at this moment. Who knows the depth of this mysterious person's martial arts? What if I act rashly and can't beat him? Thinking of this, Wang Songshan had the intention to retreat in his heart. He wanted to leave this place and make plans after going back. At least, he had to investigate the identity of the person in front of him first. You want to leave? I'm afraid it's not that easy, right? Jetson looked at Wang Songshan with a mocking face. Since you know that I am here, how can you leave as you wish? So what? Wang Songshan complained in his heart. This person is really taking advantage of me. I am indeed afraid of him, but don't think that I am really afraid of him. I just don't have the confidence in my heart and don't want to act rashly. This guy really thinks of me as someone important. Since your excellency is here, then stay. Jetson said faintly, as if he was talking about a normal thing. I can come and go as I wish. Do I have to ask you for instructions? Wang Songshan was thinking about how to find an opportunity to leave this place. Now that the two people were on the verge of breaking out, it was absolutely impossible for Wang Songshan to turn around and leave. However, it was also impossible for Wang Songshan to jump out backwards. This was the second floor. If he jumped down head-on, he would probably be fine. If he jumped backwards, he would probably die. Therefore, Wang Songshan really didn't have any good ideas for a while. He could only grind his teeth and waste time with Jetson, but his heart was extremely anxious. At this time, the conversation between the two had awakened Good. Good was horrified to see that there was suddenly another person in his room. He immediately sobered up. When he saw the person's face, he exclaimed, Wang Songshan. Why are you here? Uncle Jetson, he is the family master of the butterfly family. Catch him quickly. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.